Chapter 2144. Amid the vast flame sea, Xiao Chen's laughter reverberated in all directions. However, it sounded exceptionally piercing to the ears of Bai Yunfei and the other three. Their expressions turned extremely sullen. After him. Let's see if you still have the capital to be arrogant after we reach the shore. Feng Xiaobai snorted coldly. Then, he executed his movement technique and gave chase again in the flame sea. That was right. The reason why the group feared Xiao Chen was because they were in the flame sea. If they were not careful, they might end up dying together with Xiao Chen. Furthermore, the four did not trust each other and feared each other. Hence, they did not dare to attack Xiao Chen rashly. In reality, there was one more thing that the four were unwilling to admit. Be it Bai Yunfei, Feng Xiaobai, Mu Yunzhu, or Xiahou Zun, they all felt intimidated by Xiao Chen's aura. Xiao Chen's declaration that he would not rest until he killed anyone in the way intimidated them, not daring to make the first move against Xiao Chen. However, no one would admit this in their hearts. Seeing Feng Xiaobai give chase, the others quickly followed. They all radiated killing chi and showed sullen expressions. They wished that they could tear Xiao Chen to pieces on the spot to vent the unhappiness in their hearts. This Xiao Chen is really going to thoroughly offend the four of us. This way, this matter will probably spread in a few days, the Hidden Spirit Temple's Yuanzhen said sullenly with a slight frown. The Hidden Spirit Temple's Yuanzhen, who was in the rear of the flame sea, frowned slightly. Xiao Chen's laughter was very loud, spreading far and wide. Everyone within 50,000 kilometers could hear it. Apart from them, the other disciples who were chasing after them also heard it clearly. If I cannot confuse their minds, how can I shake off this group of people? Right after Yuanzhen spoke, a figure in the air spread open his arms like an immortal crane in the clouds and landed firmly beside the group. Xiao Chen. When the Hidden Spirit Temple's disciples clearly saw the person who arrived, they were greatly startled. Xiao Chen clearly headed for the shore. Why did he turn around in the blink of an eye? What's going on? You did it on purpose. Yuanzhen's thoughts raced as fast as lightning. Soon, he figured out the crux of the matter. Then, he enunciated every word as he looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and nodded. That's right. These four people are peak experts among half-step sovereign emperors. It would be hard for me to defeat any one of them, much less all four of them. I could temporarily intimidate them, but they weren't fools. They would quickly come to their senses. With the four of us working together, there was no need to be afraid of dying. When the time comes, they will still be able to catch up to me. If I don't humiliate them and make them angry and blindly chase after me, I won't be able to leave. Furthermore, their lives are valuable. And they are not willing to die with me. How is my life worthless? There is no need for me to risk my life against them. The four felt that their lives were valuable and did not want to risk their lives against Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's SSS. How laughable. The four of them still felt that their lives were precious and that there was no need to fight to the death with Xiao Chen. Benefactor Xiao, will you be able to explain your relationship with your temple in detail? Yuanzhen asked softly as he looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen took out a brocade box and handed it to Yuanzhen. After Yuanzhen received it, he gave Xiao Chen a suspicious look. Xiao Chen took out a brocade box and handed it to Yuanzhen. When Yuanzhen received it, he gave Xiao Chen a suspicious look. You will know when you open it. Xiao Chen extended his hand and gestured for Yuanzhen to open it. The moment the brocade box opened a crack, a piercing golden light shot out. When the brocade box completely opened, Yuanzhen's expression changed. The expressions of the other Hidden Spirit Temple disciples behind also changed drastically, looking at Xiao Chen in shock. The Buddhist sect's golden letter. That was a one-page golden letter, the highest gift of the Buddhist sect. Only those who showed great kindness to the Buddhist sect could obtain it. When Xiao Chen saw the other party's expression, he smiled. Then, his figure flashed, and he quickly took the brocade box back before Yuanzhen's stunned gaze. I only let you take a look and did not use this one-page golden letter. Don't blame me for taking it away. Xiaochen smiled faintly as he put away the golden letter. Yuanjun recovered his wits and started cultivating again. Earlier, he had indeed thought of taking back the golden letter so that he could think of a way to help his sect repay this favor. After all, it would be more worthwhile for him to repay this favor than for the other esteemed monks. Who knew, Xiaochen seemed to have anticipated this. Before Yuanjun could react, the golden letter was snatched away. Just address me as Yuanjun. I am just a lay disciple. Benefactor Xiao, there is no need to be so polite. Yuanjun smiled and said, Benefactor Xiao is right. I only took a look and did not use it. Xiaochen thought to himself, this Yuanjun is pretty good. Then, he said softly, now, do you believe my relationship with your sect? Yuanjun smiled and said, the Buddhist sect's golden letter already appeared. What else do I not believe? Now that the Buddhist sect's golden letter appeared, Xiaochen took the opportunity to ask, what is the ice-fire divine origin? Yuanjun gave Xiaochen a strange look. Benefactor Xiao, do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? Xiaochen said helplessly, I indeed do not know what the ice-fire divine origin is. I don't even know where it is right now. Seeing that Xiaochen's expression was not fake, Yuanjun explained the ice-fire divine origins and where this place was to Xiaochen. After Xiaochen heard that, he revealed a contemplative expression. There were still some parts that he did not understand. The flame vein rushing Xiaochen to the core of the ice-fire wasteland made sense. However, Xiaochen could not understand why the ice-fire divine origin disappeared and why Xiaochen appeared on the lotus platform. Then, Xiaochen thought about his great improvement in cultivation, going from the initial peak to consummation peak. Xiaochen guessed that he might have inadvertently refined and absorbed the ice-fire divine origin. He seemed to recall seeing many flickering spots of starlight at the bottom of the lake before he entered a meditative state. Perhaps it had something to do with this. However, there was no need to overthink this. After all, his cultivation had improved significantly. He had nurtured the universe origin true flame and the heavenly snow divine flame to rank 6. All this was real. What did the ice-fire divine origin's disappearance have to do with Xiaochen? From the very start, he had never had any designs on the ice-fire divine origin. Benefactor Xiao, why did you appear on the ice-fire lotus platform? What exactly did you experience? Yuanjun asked softly, curiosity flashing in his eyes. This question concerned the secret of Xiaochen comprehending all things rejoicing together. For now, Xiaochen could not tell others. He could only reply after some thought, it's a long story. If there is an opportunity in the future, I will explain to you. When Yuanjun heard that, he knew that this involved Xiaochen's secrets, so he did not pursue the matter. He nodded to indicate his understanding and smiled. That is not important. However, there is something important that I would like to discuss with Benefactor Xiao. The ice-fire lotus platform? Yuanjun nodded and said, that's right. It looks like Benefactor Xiao is a smart person. I would like to use my treasures to exchange for this lotus platform with Benefactor Xiao. What miraculous uses does this lotus platform have? Xiaochen asked, feeling confused. It has boundless miraculous uses for people of my Buddhist sect. However, it is not very useful to outsiders, Yuanjun explained casually with a smile. Xiaochen thought to himself, this monk is really smart. He did not tell me what it is used for. Indeed, none of the people who rushed to this primal chaos flame sea were easy to deal with. Xiaochen's expression did not change. He smiled and said, I can be considered half a member of the Buddhist sect. Master Yuanjun, please explain it to me. Yuanjun nodded and said, since Benefactor Xiao is half a member of the Buddhist sect, you should know that lotus platforms are very common Buddhist treasures in my Buddhist sect. Right. This ice-fire lotus platform was born in this extreme environment. There are no signs of it being artificially modified, so it is known as an innate Buddhist treasure. In the entire martial epoch, only 3 places can give birth to this innate lotus platform. Such a lotus platform would be a rare item even in my hidden spirit temple. It would be even rarer in other temples. Yuanzhen continued, nearly all esteemed monks and powerhouses require such an innate Buddhist treasure. Otherwise, it would not match their status. Hence, it is very rare for people of my Buddhist sect. While Yuanzhen's words sounded reasonable, in reality, it was all nonsense. According to Yuanzhen, this lotus platform was something that esteemed monks and powerhouses used to show off their status. Indeed, it had such a function. However, the true value of the ice-fire lotus platform that Shao Qin obtained lay in its 360 lotus petals. In the past, the best ice-fire lotus platform only had 180 lotus petals. He had never heard of one with 36 petals. A lotus platform born in the world was not used to show off one's status but for comprehending Buddhist principles. Even those esteemed monks and powerhouses needed to comprehend some profound Buddhist principles. By using this innate Buddhist treasure, they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Just think about it. Even esteemed monks and powerhouses had such an effect, what more ordinary people? When using this lotus platform to cultivate Buddhist sect cultivation techniques, it would also have wondrous effects. As for people cultivating other cultivation techniques, it would also be useful. It was not as Yuanzhen said that it was useless to outsiders. More importantly, Shao Chen's ice-fire lotus platform was a peak-quality item among peak-quality items. No one knew if it had other wondrous effects. Of course, it did not make sense to say that Yuanzhen was lying. Everything he said was true, he just did not focus on the main points. After hearing the other party's explanation, Shao Qin said, "It looks like it is indeed useless to me. I can reconsider the exchange. In that case, would Benefactor Shao like to take a look at my collection? I believe there will be something that Benefactor Shao will be satisfied with." Seeing the other party so anxious, Shao Qin smiled in his heart. This monk was not telling him the truth. He said softly, "Sure. Let's talk as we walk." Chapter 2145. With this group of hidden spirit temples people as bodyguards, the return journey could be said to be very peaceful. There were many crafty and sinister foe beasts in the mysterious ice forest. However, there was no need for Shao Chen to make a move. Along the way, Yuanzhen appeared very enthusiastic, feeling that he would be able to obtain the ice-fire lotus platform. Yuanzhen rejoiced in his heart, but he did not show it. Instead, he chatted happily with Shao Chen. As Yuanzhen spoke, his impression of Shao Chen changed significantly. This Shao Chen had a unique understanding of Buddhism. Shao Chen did not seem like an outsider who only knew a little about the Buddhist sect. He believed that a monk should not care about the mundane world, living in peace and few desires. Yuanzhen's many insights were refreshing to Yuanzhen. Given this, Yuanzhen was no longer in a rush. Since Yuanzhen was not in a rush, Shao Chen was even less in a rush. While the two were not in a rush, Feng Xiaobai and the other 3 were so anxious that rage filled their hearts. The 4 chased frantically all the way to the Holy Domain's divine capital, but they did not see Shao Chen's figure. How can it be like this? Feng Xiaobai felt confused. The 4 of them were half-step sovereign emperors with deep and unfathomable cultivations. Compared to Shao Chen, their cultivations were much higher. Even if Shao Chen managed to escape the Sea of Fire first, they should not have been unable to see his figure. Shao Chen had formed his divine seal and merged his Tao domain with his soul. His soul energy was several times stronger than that of a heaven-defying sovereign personage. The distance that he could explore far surpassed that of Shao Chen. However, along the way, they did not see Shao Chen's figure at all. It looks like he has a secret treasure that can teleport people in the Holy Domain. Damn it! Teleporting in the faux god world was extremely dangerous. Space-time flowed in reverse, and one might get disturbed if one was not careful. Although it was dangerous, it did not mean that it was not possible. One could exchange for such secret treasures with faux god coins in the 100 treasure pavilion. However, the price was high and the quality-price ratio was low. Most people rarely exchanged for them. After thinking about it, this was the only possibility. Otherwise, Xiaochen would not have disappeared from their sight for no reason. What should we do now? Mu Yunzhu asked seriously as he looked at the other three. Feng Xiaobai paced in front of the Holy Domain's divine capital, thinking to himself. After a while, he said, now that we have reached the Holy Domain's divine capital, there is no chance of taking his life anymore. I wonder what happened to the ice-fire divine origin. No matter how I think about it, I'm still full of anger. Now, I really can't do anything to him. Aside from some special places in the Holy Domain's divine capital where people could spar, fighting was prohibited elsewhere. Unless both parties were willing, even if they could fight, it was impossible to kill anyone in the Holy Region's divine capital. This was the Saint Domain's prohibition. If something were to happen, even the superpowers behind them wouldn't be able to protect them. The few of them were in a terrible predicament. They couldn't swallow this anger in their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. He heard anxious shouts coming from afar. Turning his head, he saw that it was his junior brother following him. Senior brother, senior brother. When Feng Xiaobai saw his junior brothers flustered and extremely anxious, he frowned and asked, what's going on? Why are you all so flustered? After one of them rested, he said in a deep voice, Senior brother Feng, that Xiaochen hasn't gone far. He's still behind. What? The expressions of Feng Xiaobai and the other three changed drastically. This was truly shocking, they were in disbelief. That's impossible. The four of us chased all the way. How could we let him slip behind us under our noses? Mu Yunzhu said resolutely, refusing to believe it. Bai Yunfei said coldly, since he is behind us, with so many of you, could it be that you cannot capture him alone? The Bushin Palace disciple said with some grievance, Senior brother Bai, he was with the Hidden Spirit Temple's group. They left together from the Primal Chaos Flame Sea. They were chatting and laughing, and their relationship was very good. We did not dare to make a move. Bai Yunfei and the other three were intelligent people. The moment they heard this, their complexions immediately turned ashen. We got fooled. Back then, Xiaochen had purposely mocked them, wanting to infuriate the four into chasing blindly out of humiliation. However, at this moment, the four sneaked behind them and met up with the Hidden Spirit Temple's group. The crown prince of an empire, an outstanding talent of a sect, is only SOSO. Now that they thought about it, these words were incredibly ear-piercing, making them blush in embarrassment. The group of junior brothers did not dare to say anything, lest they say something that would anger these four. Damn it! Damn it! To think that this Xiaochen played us like monkeys. Bai Yunfei's handsome face turned completely black at this moment, filled with indescribable rage. He had already been fooled by Xiaochen once in Cloudwater Marsh and the Desolate Sea. Even so, Bai Yunfei respectfully addressed him as senior. That was already a great humiliation. This time, he was fooled again. As the saying goes, it's impossible for a person to make the same mistake twice. But Bai Yunfei had been fooled twice in the past. The first time, he was fooled into addressing Xiaochen as senior. This time, he was even more embarrassed. Not only was he fooled, but he was even mocked in public. How could Bai Yunfei endure this? The other three showed extremely unsightly expressions, no less than Bai Yunfei's. They were so frustrated that they nearly vomited blood. However, they could not think of a good solution. Senior brother, they are here. One of them pointed to the back. Then, they saw Xiaochen descending from the sky with the Hidden Spirit Temple's group, slowly landing in the Holy Domain's divine capital. Xiaochen chatted happily with Yuan Zhen. I will definitely kill him. The three scarlet marks on Bai Yunfei's forehead formed a beautiful orchid that looked like it would ooze blood. Such a scene startled the other people from the Bushin Palace. They quickly pulled Bai Yunfei back. Senior brother, calm down. This is the Holy Domain's divine capital. We cannot attack here. There are people watching us from the city walls. Indeed. Senior brother, it is not worth it for this person. The others feared that Bai Yunfei would act rashly in his anger. If he failed to kill Xiao Chen, he would end up in the Holy Domain's heavenly prison. If that happened, he would be completely ruined. That would be exactly what Xiao Chen wanted. Ha ha ha. Yuan Zhen, brother Bai wants to kill me. As a member of the Buddhist sect, you should advise him to rein in his murderous heart. Being so easily angered is not good for his body. When Xiao Chen walked over and saw Bai Yunfei's flustered and exasperated appearance, he laughed without any fear. Yuan Zhen stepped forward and pressed his palms together. May the Buddha bless you. Benefactor Bai, why bother? Since you are already in the Holy Domain's divine capital, don't cling to your murderous heart. Buddha is merciful. Benefactor Bai, please calm down. Don't be anxious, don't be impatient. Don't have a murderous heart. Otherwise, it will be hard to dispel your heart demon. You will soon face a bloody calamity. Pu Ci. To think that this bald donkey Yuanzhen actually recited his Dharma name. Bai Yunfei immediately cursed in his heart. However, when the words reached Bai Yunfei's mouth, he could not spit them out. Anger overwhelmed him, and he could not help vomiting a mouthful of blood. His complexion instantly paled, and he looked extremely dispirited. The combination of Bai Yunfei's handsome face and his pale complexion made one's heart ache. Senior brother, when the Bushan Palace's disciples from the White Marsh Beast Empire saw this scene, they immediately felt anxious. At the same time, they were startled and horrified. This repulsive monk said that senior brother would face a bloody calamity. To think that it really came true. When Feng Xiaobai and the other two saw this scene, they could not help being startled. They quickly calmed down, no longer getting angry. It looked like this monk was really on the same side as Xiao Chen. Bai Yunfei did not know what he had experienced to hate Xiao Chen to such an extent. After Mu Yunzhu calmed down, he looked at Xiao Chen and Yuan Zhen. Then, he said, I found it strange that the ice-fire divine origin disappeared for no reason this time. It looks like your hidden spirit temple did something. Feng Xiaobai's expression turned cold as a murderous intent flashed on his face. It looks like the two sides are working together, each taking what they need. One is seeking the ice-fire divine origin, and the other is seeking the ice-fire lotus platform. We were really miserably tricked. What a good scheme. This Feng admires it. Yuan Zhen immediately felt somewhat anxious. He explained, you really maligned me. The mystery of the ice-fire divine origin's disappearance has nothing to do with the hidden spirit temple. Xiao Hozun retorted indifferently, there is no need for you to explain whether it is related or not. Even now, you are still treating us like fools. Do you think that we are really stupid? The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. Sooner or later, we will settle this debt with your hidden spirit temple. After giving Yuanzhen a cold look, Xiao Hozun shifted his gaze to Xiao Chen. Then, he turned and left without saying a word. Yuanzhen's expression already turned somewhat unsightly. He felt helpless in his heart. You are really stupid as a pig. After speaking nonsense, you thought that you understood everything. You even want to settle this debt with the hidden spirit temple. There is no way to communicate with you. Mu Yunzhu and the others left one after another, feeling very vexed. They did not want to remain here for another second. Every time they saw Xiao Chen, they would feel angry. If they could not hold back, they would end up like Bai Yunfei. Mu Yunzhu felt so frustrated that he vomited blood and fainted. After the group of people left, Yuan Zhen looked at Xiao Chen and asked, Benefactor Xiao, what do you think? Are you willing to trade the ice-fire lotus platform? Xiao Chen nodded and replied, I have considered it very clearly. This ice-fire lotus platform is very important to the Buddhist sect. I intend to personally visit and present it to your honored temple for free. Yuan Zhen immediately felt stunned. Then, he smiled helplessly and said, Benefactor Xiao is really considerate. I will represent the hidden spirit temple in thanking you in advance. You are too polite. I'll take my leave first. Xiao Chen performed a cup-fist salute and left, vanishing from the group's vision. Senior brother, he is tricking us. He said that he is giving it to us, but he did not add a time limit. If he were to give it to us 10 years or 100 years later, we would not be able to reason with him. As Yuanzhen looked at Xiao Chen's departing figure, he seemed very open-minded. He smiled and said, "How could I not know? He is such an intelligent person. How could he hand over the Ice Fire Lotus platform just because of some words from me? It is within my expectations. Let's go. This person has a deep friendship with our temple's little ancestor. Remember to treat him politely whenever you see him." Little ancestor. The hidden spirit temple had many old ancestors, but there was only one little ancestor. That was an existence that even the abbot had to avoid, an existence that could not be offended. Upon hearing Yuanzhen's words, the other hidden spirit temple disciples all trembled, feeling that it had been a close call. No wonder this Xiao Chen could fool them. How could someone who had a deep friendship with the little ancestor and did not die be someone to offend? That was not right. It was not a question of whether Xiao Chen should be offended or not. It was as senior brother Yuanzhen said. Xiao Chen absolutely could not be offended. As everyone looked at Xiao Chen, they felt that his back seemed much taller. Chapter 2146. Once he entered the Holy Domain's divine capital, he would be completely safe. When Xiao Chen returned to his own courtyard, he heaved a sigh of relief. It was really a narrow escape from death this time. He had only wanted to kill some mastiffs in the periphery, but someone had set up a trap and he had nearly died to the mastiffs. Xiao Chen only wanted to nurture the heavenly snow divine flame and the universe origin true flame. However, the moment he opened his eyes, the leaders of the 4 super factions targeted him. Fortunately, there was no danger, and the harvest was not bad. Now that Xiao Chen's cultivation reached peak consummation, he could be considered officially a heaven-defying sovereign personage. As a sovereign personage, one's veritable essence energy and soul energy had already been cultivated to their limits. There was no more room for improvement. Nurturing the universe origin true flame and the heavenly snow divine flame was part of the plan. His cultivation was a pleasant surprise. Normally, it would take at least a year or 2 of hard work to reach the peak. This was because the faux god world had an extremely dense environment in the first place. Furthermore, there were all sorts of resources that could be exchanged for with faux god coins. The next direction of cultivation was to condense divine seals. After forming the divine seal, the might of Xiao Chen's soul energy and Dao domain would reach a whole new level. At that time, even if Feng Xiaobai and the others worked together, Xiao Chen would not fear them. In the primal chaos flame sea, Xiao Chen had to use a scheme to trick these 4 people away. This was because the 4 were peak experts among half-step sovereign emperors. With the support of their divine seals, they were able to survive. Martial techniques and cultivation techniques could bring out a might far surpassing that of a heaven-defying sovereign personage. It would be fine if 1 person worked together. However, if 4 worked together, Xiao Chen would not stand a chance of victory. Forming a divine seal was the first step to breaking through to the sovereign emperor realm. It was crucial to the sovereign emperor realm. Divine seals were divided into different levels. The more Dao domains that fused with the soul, the stronger the divine seal. The attributes of the Dao domain would also affect the divine seal. For example, the divine seal formed by the Death Dao domain was stronger than the divine seal formed by the Thunder Dao domain. Of course, it would be much more difficult. Right now, Xiao Chen only grasped 1 Dao domain, the Saber Dao and the Ice Dao. He had yet to break through to the Dao domain. As for reincarnation, he was still stuck at the level of will. He had yet to grasp the Dao of reincarnation. If he had a choice, Xiao Chen would naturally choose to merge the cycle Dao domain with his soul and form a divine seal. However, this was clearly unrealistic. The will of cycle was too difficult to cultivate. While Xiao Chen was confident of grasping the cycle Dao, he did not know if he could break through to the Dao domain. This was because the reincarnation Dao was too powerful. It had already surpassed time and space. It was an ability that even faux gods would find difficult to grasp. Putting aside the Samsara Tao for now, Xiaochen was not someone who was willing to be mediocre. He would definitely not just fuse a single Tao domain with his soul. If Xiaochen could not break through to the Tao domain in his Ice Tao and Saber Tao, he definitely would not form a divine seal. Next, I'll focus my cultivation on comprehending the Saber Tao and the Ice Tao. Xiaochen revealed a contemplative expression. It seemed that because he had merged with the Ice-Fire divine origin, he felt that his Ice Tao could break through to the Tao domain at any time. On the other hand, Xiaochen's specialty, the Saber Tao, was forever separated from the Tao domain by a thin layer of fog. It felt very close yet very far. He had once lost some things, and it was extremely difficult to find them again. Oh, right, I have not looked at my Ice-Fire Lotus platform in detail yet. Xiaochen had nearly forgotten about one of his greatest gains on this trip. With a thought, the Ice-Fire Lotus platform flew out of his storage ring. The Lotus platform consisted of a total of 360 lotus leaves. It had a natural Tao and spiritual energy. With one look, one could tell that it was extraordinary. As Xiaochen looked at the Lotus platform floating in the air, he entered deep thought. I probably won't be able to make out anything from just looking at it. I don't know much about the Ice-Fire Lotus platform either. I have to ask someone. Let's go to the 100 Treasure Pavilion. The 100 Treasure Pavilion was a place where one could exchange faux god coins for treasures. There were excellent appraisers there. They could appraise any treasure. Of course, that was on the premise that one had sufficient faux god coins. After a while, Xiaochen arrived at the 100 Treasure Pavilion's appraisal area. This item does not need any special appraisal. Give me 500 faux god coins, and I can tell you its origins and uses. The appraiser was an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. His cultivation was unfathomable. He gave a price with one look. Xiaochen still had some faux god coins on hand, so he happily handed over 500 faux god coins and waited for the appraiser's answer. This is the Ice-Fire Lotus platform, born in the Ice-Fire continent. The Ice-Fire Lotus platform has always been favored by the Buddhist sect's esteemed monks. Its greatest use is comprehending the Tao. Even the esteemed monks of the Buddhist sect can use this item to help them comprehend Buddhist principles. When Xiaochen heard that, he felt excited. Indeed, Yuan Zhen had kept a trick up his sleeve. How was this a lotus platform that esteemed monks used to show off their status? It was clearly a priceless treasure. For others, they can use this lotus platform to comprehend the Tao, martial techniques, and some mysteries. It can allow them to achieve twice the results with half the effort. It is similar to the faux god prayer mats in the comprehension platform. However, as it is naturally formed, it is even better. The appraiser continued, if this item is forged using a Buddhist sect secret technique, it can be refined into a soul tool that can be used to ward off lightning and undergo tribulations. The most important thing is that your Ice-Fire Lotus platform has a total of 368 lotus petals. The highest quality lotus platform that appeared in the Ice-Fire Wasteland only has 160 petals. Its value is simply inestimable. I nearly got cheated. Xiaochen thought to himself, I got lucky. Had I listened to Yuan Zhen, I would have cried myself to death. Xiaochen suppressed his excitement and asked, do I need a Buddhist sect secret technique to forge it? Can the faux god world refine it? No. The appraiser shook his head. Then, he looked at Xiaochen and gave a negative answer. Then, he added, you are a member of the Heavenly Alliance. Perhaps the Heavenly Alliance can think of something after you go out. After all, the Heavenly Alliance gathers all the Grandmaster blacksmiths in the world. It might be possible. Many thanks. This gave Xiaochen some hope that he could think of something after he went out. The old man was very responsible. After saying that, he explained the many uses of the Ice-Fire Lotus platform to Xiaochen. The old man even explained its origins in detail, including the strong secret treasures forged using it in history. This made Xiaochen feel that the 500 faux god coins were worth it. After receiving the ice-fire lotus platform, he thanked the old man again. "Young Master Xiao, you are too polite." "This is just this old man's duty," the old man said with a smile, feeling satisfied with Xiao Chen's politeness. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and asked, feeling curious, "Senior, you know me?" "Naturally. You broke the 1,000-year record for the Trial Tower's first floor, and you broke the third floor's highest difficulty in history. How can I not know you? I remember that many Foe God Bladesmen wanted to take you as a disciple back then." However, Senior Shimu stopped them, the appraiser said casually with a nod. The appraiser nodded slightly as he spoke casually. However, his words shocked Xiao Chen. "What? Back then, many Foe God Bladesmen wanted to take me as a disciple, but this Senior Shimu stopped them?" Xiao Chen did not feel surprised when he heard that. Back then, he only thought that he was not too outstanding and did not overthink it. Unexpectedly, there was such a secret, which flabbergasted him. "Is this true?" "Of course. How can I speak carelessly about such a thing?" Xiao Chen did not say anything more. He performed a cupped fist salute and took his leave. When he walked out of the 100 Treasure Pavilion, he felt somewhat confused. Why did Senior Shimu do this? Is it because I defeated his statue, so he hates me? That's not right. If he hates me out of jealousy, he would not have given me the painting and let me obtain the fiendish saber inheritance. The thoughts of that old senior are really unfathomable. Xiao Chen sighed and stopped thinking. Then, he returned to the courtyard and took out the second painting that Lu Benwei once gave him. The style of the second painting was different from the first one. It was very realistic. It was a picture of a lake with ripples on the surface of the lake. A drop of water slowly fell from the sky. Aside from that, there was nothing else. Compared to the first painting, this second painting was even simpler and more ordinary, even harder to understand. However, Xiao Chen comprehended all things rejoicing together from the first painting. This second painting definitely had its mysteries. Now that Xiao Chen's saber Dao had reached a bottleneck, he placed most of his hopes of breaking through the bottleneck of the Dao domain on this second painting. Perhaps it would be better for me to sit on the lotus platform and comprehend it. As he thought this, Xiao Chen took out the ice-fire lotus platform and sat down cross-legged. Xiao Chen immediately sensed a profound and incomprehensible feeling coming from the lotus platform, filling his entire body. It was just like when he comprehended at the bottom of the lake. Xiao Chen now understood. It turned out that he was already sitting on the vague form of the lotus platform at that time. Let's not care about that for now. Let's see what exactly is so profound about this painting. Chapter 2147. In the Void God Realm, in a place where clouds and mist lingered, a group of mountains could be faintly seen. The majestic mountain range was like a coiled dragon soaring through the clouds. The mountain peak was like a blade, piercing through the sky, standing proudly. This was where fiendish saber Shimu cultivated in seclusion in the Foe God world. Whoosh! An air-piercing sound rang out, and a figure shuttled through the clouds like a celestial being. His posture was agile and his temperament was extraordinary. It was Lu Benwei, one of fiendish saber Shimu's nominal disciples. At the peak of the mountain range, in the depths of the endless clouds and mist, there was a mountain peak that stood upside down. Countless vines wrapped around it, giving it an ancient and boundless feeling. Lu Benwei flew all the way, and when he arrived, he slowly landed. There were many ancient buildings on the inverted platform. Lu Benwei walked toward one of them. His master, fiendish saber Shimu, was waiting for him. Strange, why did master suddenly summon me here? Lu Benwei thought to himself, feeling a little puzzled. Generally speaking, his master rarely summoned him without saying anything. If he had any instructions, he would definitely inform him in advance so that he could make preparations. Lu Benwei felt some doubt when he saw fiendish saber Shimu. After bowing respectfully, he said, "Greetings, master. I wonder, why did master summon this disciple?" Fiendish saber Shimu had a head full of white hair, and wrinkles covered his old face. Only his eyes remained frighteningly sharp. It's nothing. Let me ask you, did Xiaochen look for you? Lu Benwei was stunned when he heard this, but he still answered truthfully, Master, Xiaochen hasn't looked for me for more than a year. He hasn't contacted me at all. Fiendish Saber Shimu could not help feeling stunned. He stroked his beard and muttered, that shouldn't be the case. Could it be that he couldn't see through the mysteries of the painting? He didn't have any doubts at all. With his talent, he should be able to see the abnormality. Shimu did not think that Xiaochen could comprehend the mysteries of the painting so quickly. However, he should be able to tell that the painting was extraordinary. According to his conjecture, since he could see the abnormality but didn't know much about it, he should seek Lu Benwei's advice. However, it had been more than a year since he had contacted Lu Benwei. Shimu felt confused. Strange, did I make a mistake? He really couldn't see through the mysteries of the painting. Couldn't he guess what kind of opportunity was contained in the painting? If he had known about the inheritance represented by the fortuitous encounter in the painting, how could he not be tempted? If it were anyone else, he would have long sought out Lu Benwei. After some thought, he felt that this was not a bad idea. This means that this brat cannot compare to my younger self. It was just a coincidence that he defeated my statue in the trial tower. With this thought, Fiendish Saber Shimu smiled and said, Go and bring him over. Say that I want to meet him. Lu Benwei could not help but ask in surprise, Master, what are you doing? Fiendish Saber Shimu smiled and said, This fellow is pretty good. I want to take him in as a nominal disciple and give him some pointers. Lu Benwei was speechless. He didn't understand what his master's logic was, but since it was an order, he just had to follow it. Yes, this disciple will obey master's orders. In the Holy Domain's divine capital, Xiaochen sat cross-legged. He had been comprehending the Tao on the ice-fire lotus platform for more than half a month. In his eyes, the painting in front of him was no longer the same as what he had seen in the past. Xiaochen's vision was now focused on the lake in the painting, on the droplet of water falling from the air. The droplet of water and the lake. One was insignificant, the other vast. One was nimble, and the other was calm. The scene looked peaceful, a droplet of water and a lake. In reality, there were surging undercurrents, clashing with one another. In Xiaochen's eyes, this droplet was like a powerful bladesman showing off his sharpness. It was a powerful bladesman with lofty ambitions, carrying the courage to die as it fell from the sky. This droplet of water had lofty ambitions. This droplet of water wanted to challenge a lake. Pa! The scene continued to change. Xiaochen felt like he was in the painting, seeing nothing but emptiness. Rain was about to fall from the sky. Thunder rumbled, and thousands of droplets of water fell from the sky. However, a droplet of water gathered in the sky, unmoved. It allowed the other droplets of water to come and go, leaving them to fate as they fell from the sky. This droplet of water remained unmoved. This was a lonely droplet of water and also a proud droplet of water. Whoosh! The rainwater on the ground gathered into countless tributaries, slowly forming a lake in front of Xiaochen. The surface of the lake widened. However, that droplet of water continued to hang high in the sky, unmoved. The heavens were enraged. The thunderclouds scattered, and the blazing sun hung high in the sky, punishing on behalf of the heavens, using the power of the sun to scatter this droplet of water. However, something strange happened. When this droplet of water shone on it, it glistened like crystal. The hotter the sunlight, the more resplendent it was, the more dazzling this droplet of water became. This droplet of water was so proud. The sun set and the sun rose. This blazing sun roasted this droplet of water for 3,333 years. However, this droplet of water remained as proud as before, not changing its past. The heavens were enraged. Then, the heavens used thousands of lightning bolts to strike it, wanting to completely destroy it. Another 3,333 years passed. This droplet of water did not change its past, remaining as proud as before. The heavens raged and used strong winds to torture it for 3,333 years, the blazing sun, strong winds, and lightning tormented it for a total of 9,999 years. However, this droplet of water remained as proud as before. For 9,999 years, the lightning, strong winds, and intense flames could not change its past. It only made it shine even more resplendent, washing away all the impurities on its body. It became crystalline and pure, as beautiful as a demon. What is a demon? Someone as lonely as me, hanging high in the 9 heavens for 10,000 years, existing alone. What is a demon? Someone as proud as me, not fearing the heavenly might. Just like that, Xiaochen watched this droplet of water for 9,999 years, watching this droplet of water hang high in the sky, not changing its past. The scene suddenly changed. Xiaochen retreated and saw this droplet of water continue falling. Pa! When this droplet of water landed on the lake, the vast lake instantly exploded. The sky also shattered at this moment. This droplet of water expelled all of the lake's water. The droplet of water pierced through the lake and exploded the boundless lake water. No matter how much water there was in the lake, it could not contain the heart of this droplet of water. Boom! Xiaochen felt shocked. In the next moment, he startled awake. Xiaochen's entire body was drenched in sweat as if he had had a very long dream. Then, he looked at the painting floating in front of him. The scene in the painting still had not changed. It was still a droplet of water slowly falling, and the lake remained calm and peaceful. Xiaochen leaped down and put away the ice-fire lotus platform. Then, he opened the painting in his hand and carefully looked at it, entering deep thought. Even a droplet of water can become a demon. The blazing sun, strong winds, and lightning cannot destroy it. It only adds to its elegance, making it look even more demonic. Not going with the flow, not following the will of heaven, not respecting the heavenly might. A droplet of water shatters the sky. Xiaochen entered deep thought. The inheritance contained in this painting was simply incredible. Fiendish Saber Shimu's nominal disciple, Lu Benwei, comes to seek an audience with the Heavenly Alliance's Xiaochen. Just as Xiaochen was deep in thought, Lu Benwei's voice rang out in the courtyard. Xiaochen muttered, "What is he doing here? Is he here to give me the third painting?" After putting away the painting, Xiaochen went out to receive Lu Benwei. Then, he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Greetings, big brother Lu." Lu Benwei gave Xiaochen a strange look. "You look very pale. Did something go wrong with your cultivation?" Xiaochen knew that he had exhausted too much of his mind while comprehending the second painting. So, he wanted to tell the truth and ask for guidance. Lu Benwei asked, "Do you need to rest? My master would like to meet you." "Fiendish Saber Shimu wants to meet me?" "Alright, I want to meet him as well." Xiaochen was very curious about what kind of existence this fiendish Saber Shimu was. Why did Shimu reject all the other foe gods who wanted to take him in as a disciple and refuse to take him in as a disciple? Also, why did Shimu give him the fiendish saber painting? There's no need. We can leave now. Big brother Lu, please lead the way. Xiaochen immediately answered without hesitation. Come with me, then. Lu Benwei nodded slightly and sized up Xiaochen. He also wondered why his master suddenly wanted to take Xiaochen in as a nominal disciple. The two were filled with questions as they rushed to where fiendish saber Shimu cultivated. Chapter 2148. Big brother Lu, might I know why senior fiendish saber is looking for me? Xiaochen asked Lu Benwei out of curiosity along the way. Lu Benwei led the way without answering. After a while, he said, "Let's talk after we meet master." Since he did not instruct me to tell you, he clearly does not want you to know. So mysterious, Xiaochen thought to himself. This only piqued his curiosity. 15 minutes later, the two slowly distanced themselves from the holy domain's divine capital. Lu Benwei said, "Follow me closely. I'm going to bring you through a few spatial tiers. Don't get lost. Otherwise, it will be very problematic. Right. At the mention of spatial tiers, Xiao Qin could not help being more cautious. If he got lost in one, it would be really troublesome. Lu Benwei did not lie. Not long after he spoke, his figure flashed and entered a spatial tear. Whoosh! 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 Xiao Qin quickly followed, not daring to hesitate. After passing through 6 spatial tiers, the scene before him suddenly opened up. He saw an incredibly vast mountain range shrouded in clouds. Occasionally, mountain peaks broke through the clouds. They were like powerful sabers, shining with a dazzling light. Just as one was about to find them, they hid in the clouds. This was truly astonishing. Many winding mountain peaks, many demonic geniuses in the cloud sea. These words suddenly appeared in Xiao Chen's mind, making him feel as if he was on an isolated mountain peak. These isolated mountain peaks seemed to have a mind of their own. The instant they broke through the cloud sea, Xiao Chen's bloodline surged involuntarily. A saber intent wanted to break out of his body to compete with them. It was like the mountain peaks were not mountains but powerful bladesmen. Clang! Suddenly, before Xiao Qin could react, he could no longer hold back the saber intent that he suppressed in his body, bursting out. A mountain peak appeared in the cloud sea and also shot out a saber intent. The two saber intents clashed intensely in the vast cloud sea, producing metallic clangs that resounded in the world. Dang! 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 In that instant, countless hidden mountain peaks appeared at the same time. When each mountain peak appeared, it gave off a strand of saber intent. Immediately, the boundless cloud sea for 500,000 kilometers reverberated with boundless saber intent. Xiao Chen's expression immediately changed. What's going on? Brother Lu. Turning his head to look, Lu Benwei had already disappeared without him knowing. Brother Xiao Chen, this is Master's test. Don't worry too much. Lu Benwei's voice rang out in Xiao Chen's mind, but he was nowhere to be found. Xiao Chen did not have much time to think. In an instant, hundreds of saber intents shot at him. Senior brother, this Xiao Chen doesn't seem like much. He's only taken a few steps, but he's already unable to suppress the saber intent in his body. Outside the sea of clouds, 5 people stood side by side, 4 men and 1 woman, looking at Xiao Chen, who was deep in the sea of clouds. That woman was elegant and had a face that could topple a city. She looked at Xiao Chen with a complicated expression. This was the Divine Dragon Empire's White Dragon Holy Daughter, Lu Riyue. The 5 were fiendish saber Shimu's nominal disciples. Aside from Lu Benwei, the others were new members of the other super factions. Because they showed extraordinary talent in the saber Dao, Shimu took a fancy to them. However, he did not formally take them in as disciples. I think he is in trouble. He is too careless, activating hundreds of fiendish peaks in one go. He will be finished if he gets struck by one. Junior Sister Lu, what do you think? The one who spoke was a handsome man from the profound Heaven Holy Land. His name was Zhang Yushan. Lu Riyue felt some disgust in her heart, but her expression did not change. She replied indifferently, it's hard to say. Zhang Yushan smiled and said, what's so hard to say? I don't believe that he can retreat unscathed. Clang! Right after Zhang Yushan spoke, Xiao Chen drew his saber and danced in the cloud sea. The flawless saber Dao used the body as a saber and the intent as a saber. In this breath, Xiao Chen's entire body burst out with thousands of saber lights. Ding! Ding! Dang! Dang! Xiao Chen's fine black hair fluttered, and saber hums sounded like zither music. At the crucial moment, he brought out his flawless saber Dao to its limits. In nearly an instant, Xiao Chen sent out more than 1,000 saber strikes, draining a third of his veritable essence energy. Saber chi surged, erupting with resplendent light in the cloud sea. Xiao Chen barely managed to block the hundreds of saber lights from the fiendish peaks. Upon seeing this scene, the expression of Zhang Yushan, who just finished speaking, changed slightly. Then, he shut his mouth and remained silent. However, Lu Benwei, who was at the side, remained silent. Xiao Chen activated hundreds of fiendish peaks in one go. It was not that he was careless. It was just that the saber intent in his body was too sharp. Although Xiao Chen had not comprehended the saber Dao domain, the sharpness of this saber intent surpassed that of the four people beside him. After all, Xiao Chen was someone Master took a fancy to. Since he managed to avoid this calamity, the remaining tests should not be a problem. Indeed, as Lu Benwei expected, when these fiendish peaks first appeared, they caught Xiao Chen off guard. Xiao Chen nearly fell for it on the spot. After Xiao Chen stabilized himself and brought out his normal strength, dealing with the rest became easier. Soon, the clouds parted, and the fiendish peaks disappeared. An ancient, inverted peak with thousands of vines hanging from it appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. He knew that he had passed the test and could meet Senior Shimu now. However, Xiao Chen felt somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. This Senior Shimu is really strange. He is clearly the one who wants to meet me, yet he is testing me. If it were Xiao Chen's previous temper, he would have left on the spot. However, after thinking about it, the other party was a faux god expert, a powerful bladesman of his generation. He had a temper, so there was no need to bother with him. Xiao Chen. A voice called out. Xiao Chen turned his head to look and saw Lu Benwei. There were 4 other people beside him. Xiao Chen's expression immediately changed. Then, he looked at Lu Ryue. To think that she was here as well. These are the nominal disciples that Master took in. They are the new members of the various super factions. Let's go and meet Master now. I will introduce them to you later. Lu Benwei pointed to the 4 people beside him and explained to Xiao Chen. Aside from Lu Ryue, the other 3 looked at Xiao Chen with some disdain. They did not even nod or greet him. When Lu Benwei saw this scene, he smiled coldly in his heart. These 3 relied on their half-step sovereign emperor cultivation to comprehend the Saber Dao domain. Furthermore, they had already comprehended the Saber Dao domain. Furthermore, they had become nominal disciples long ago, so they somewhat looked down on Xiao Chen. However, they did not know that Xiao Chen, whom Master had not met personally, held a much higher position than the other 4. Xiao Chen's status was much higher than theirs. He even gave Xiao Chen 2 fiendish saber inheritance paintings. Furthermore, these 4 only cultivated on the mountain and received pointers. They had not even seen the fiendish saber inheritance paintings. Xiao Chen did not care about the 4's attitude. He only looked at Lu Ryue and smiled. We meet again. When Lu Ryue heard that, a blush flashed on her face. She remembered the last time the 2 met. Under the bright moon, in the center of the lake, Xiao Chen had taken advantage of her being caught off guard to kiss the back of her hand. However, Lu Ryue adjusted her emotions in the blink of an eye. Then, she said, indeed, we meet again. This is the faux god world. I will not interfere with your grudge with the Divine Dragon Empire. However, if you dare to pester me, I do not mind capturing you and bringing you back to the Empire. In name, Xiao Chen was still a wanted person in the Divine Dragon Empire, the White Dragon Holy Daughter. As the White Dragon Holy Daughter, Lu Ryue naturally had a duty to capture Xiao Chen and bring him back to the Divine Dragon Empire. However, she only said that. Because of her younger sister, Lu Ryue did not care about capturing Xiao Chen. Given that, Lu Ryue just wanted Xiao Chen to stop making things difficult for her. On one hand, this person had taken liberties with her. On the other hand, Xiao Chen was her younger sister's sworn friend. Maintaining a distance between them was the best choice. Many thanks. When Xiao Chen heard that, he smiled faintly and thanked Lu Ryue. However, a dense melancholy flashed in the depths of his eyes. If it were in the past, Lu Ryue would not have said that to him. She would have doted on him instead. However, now, the 2 of them, who clearly loved each other, stood together like strangers. When Xiao Chen smiled seriously on his delicate face, he looked very pretty, like an iceberg melting. However, no one could understand the sorrow behind his smile, it was indescribable. Even so, Xiao Chen still felt very happy. This smile came from the bottom of his heart, driven by his true feelings. As for the sorrow and helplessness, he could just savor it himself. Let's go, then. Lu Benwei did not overthink. He only felt that his master was still waiting, so he called out for everyone to follow. Stay away from junior sister Ryue. I have 10,000 ways to make trash like you live a life worse than death. Zhang Yushan whispered a threat as he passed by Xiao Chen. Then, he gave Xiao Chen a cold look before catching up to Lu Benwei. Chapter 2149. Stay away from junior sister Ryue. Zhang Yushan's threat lingered in Xiao Chen's ears, but he ignored it. Xiao Chen was currently immersed in some memories of the past. When he saw Lu Ryue again, he felt very conflicted. He could not be bothered with this fly. Master, this fellow is very despicable. Should we teach him a lesson? The demon blood vulture said angrily as it materialized and turned into a beautiful, demonic, scarlet bird perched on Xiao Chen's shoulder. Xiao Chen said indifferently, he is just a fly. There is no need to mind him. After following the group for about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen saw fiendish saber Shimu in a large hall. The simple and plain hall had simple decorations. Compared to the demonic atmosphere outside, it looked somewhat out of place. Greetings, Master. Lu Benwei stepped forward and bowed. The others performed cup-fist salutes at the same time. As Xiao Chen bowed, he quietly sized up fiendish saber Shimu. Shimu had a head of white hair and a face full of wrinkles, giving him an aged air. As he looked at the group, he nodded slightly. Xiao Chen thought to himself, this senior Shimu before me is very different from the one I saw in the trial tower. The senior Shimu in the trial tower was strangely handsome, possessing a delicate beauty that did not belong to a woman. His entire body gave off a fiendish aura, living up to the name Fiendish Saber. This senior Shimu before Xiao Chen was an old man with an extraordinary air but a lethargic air, appearing very ordinary. If one had to say what was special about him, it would be his eyes. Xiao Chen could vaguely see the sharpness of the past, the vastness of the years. Yes, Master. Disciple and the other junior brothers welcomed young Master Xiao together. After Lu Benwei made the introductions, he led Lu Ryue, Zhang Yushan, and the others out of the hall to watch from afar. Greetings, Senior Shimu. I am honored to be summoned. Xiao Chen stepped forward and bowed formally, expressing his respect and admiration for a faux god expert. This was respect from the bottom of his heart. The martial Dao was difficult. After the heavenly realm shattered, the martial Dao became even more difficult. Since then, it was already extremely rare for one to surpass the limits of mortals and advance to Sovereign Emperor. One could dominate a region and be called a peak expert. Surpassing Sovereign Emperor and igniting the divine flame to become a faux god was even more difficult. Faux gods already stood at the peak of the martial epoch's pyramid. Any faux god was an expert that others looked up to. Aside from Lu Benwei, Lu Ryue and the others did not know why Shimu's master called Xiao Chen over. Junior sister seems to have some old grudges with this kid. If it's inconvenient for you to make a move, senior brother is willing to do it on your behalf. When Zhang Yushan heard what Lu Ryue said earlier, he tried to curry favor with her. Lu Ryue did not have a good impression of Zhang Yushan at all as she cultivated in this mountain. If it wasn't for the fact that they were from the same sect, he wouldn't have given them any face. Now that he started a conversation for no reason, he was in a bad mood. Furthermore, as the White Dragon Saintess, she had long been famous in the southern region. She had high standards, and her talent and bloodline were excellent. Hearing those words, he was quite displeased and said coldly, "You think I'm not strong enough?" Zhang Yushan was snubbed, so he smiled sheepishly and said, I wouldn't dare. Lu Benwei found this funny. However, he was rather old and had long since passed the age to care about such trivial matters. His expression did not change, but he did not say anything. Senior brother, I think this brat and Lu Ryue have some sort of relationship. The white dragon saintess is famous for her decisiveness in killing in the southern region. She is no weaker than the dragon god crown prince. If she has a grudge with Xiao Chen, how can she let him off so easily? Zhang Yushan moved to the side, and the other two junior brothers stepped forward. Naturally, I thought of that. Earlier, I probed him with my words, and I think I'm most likely right. Zhang Yushan looked at Xiao Chen, who was standing in the hall. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he did not say anything else. Why do you think Master is looking for this brat? Could it be that he wants to take him in as a disciple? Could it be that Master does not fancy any of us? Nonsense. He probably doesn't fancy you. First senior brother should know. However, first senior brother is really tight-lipped, not revealing a single word. The three had known each other for a long time. After seeing Xiao Chen display his saber skills in the Fiend Peaks, they felt some enmity for him. They worried that fiendish saber Shimu might really take Xiao Chen in as a disciple. Unfortunately, fiendish saber Shimu called Xiao Chen over to take him in as a disciple. Shimu stood up and looked at Xiao Chen. He felt satisfied with Xiao Chen's words, actions, and bearing. Then, he nodded slightly and smiled. Not bad. I've long heard that the Heavenly Alliance has produced the youngest member in history with incredible talent for the saber. I've been paying attention to you since you challenged the trial tower. Breaking the 1,000-year-old record on the first floor left a deep impression on me. Actually, breaking his statue clone on the third floor left an even deeper impression. However, Shimu was stubborn and proud. He definitely would not mention such an embarrassing matter. Honestly speaking, Shimu felt conflicted when facing Xiao Chen. On one hand, he cherished Xiao Chen's talent and wished that he could immediately pass on his mantle. On the other hand, he did not want to admit defeat. This time, Shimu made up his mind to take Xiao Chen as a disciple mainly because he concluded that Xiao Chen could not comprehend the inheritance painting that he gave him. Shimu was still not as good as his younger self. Hence, he convinced himself and gave himself a way out. Then, he quickly summoned Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen heard that, he thought to himself, I really can't figure you out. Since you think so highly of me, why do you only summon me after almost 2 years? Why do you not allow the other foe god bladesmen to take me in as a disciple? Naturally, Xiao Chen could not show such emotions. He could only express his honor. The two chatted for a while, mostly about trivial matters, not related to anything else. However, Shimu's words were sharp, all related to the Saber Dao. Shimu already felt very satisfied with Xiao Chen's calm response. Xiao Chen, have you taken a master before? If you have, who is your master? Shimu suddenly asked, changing the topic. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. At this point, he finally understood Shimu's intention in summoning him. Xiao Chen's expression did not change, but the expressions of Zhang Yushan and the other two changed drastically. Shimu wanted to take Xiao Chen in as a personal disciple. Generally speaking, nominal disciples didn't need to worry too much about sectarian views and didn't need to care too much. However, a personal disciple was different. Xiao Chen wanted to inherit his mantle and nurture him as a successor. Shimu needed to clarify this. If Xiao Chen had taken an expert before, there would be some conflict and he needed to think about it further. Lu Benwei was not surprised. Before he came, he already knew his master's intentions. However, when he saw it for himself, he still felt somewhat gratified. He had followed his master for hundreds of years. Although their relationship was deep, he was only a nominal disciple. Xiao Chen knew the reason. He was anxious that Xiao Chen was not talented enough. Inheriting his master's mantle would only bring shame to the name of the fiendish saber, preventing it from flourishing. Xiao Chen did not like that, either. Actually, Xiao Chen knew that his master was very anxious. He had always wanted to find a truly talented bladesman. His master had imparted everything he knew to Xiao Chen, fulfilling his wish before he died. However, his master was proud and stubborn, unwilling to compromise at all. As a result, he had always been depressed. Now that Shimu wanted to take Xiao Chen in, he had fulfilled one of his greatest wishes. This was good. Lu Ruyue was rather calm. Shimu had accepted her because he owed the white dragon old ancestor a favor, giving her pointers in the saber technique. However, Lu Ruyue's style was different from the fiendish saber. Furthermore, she had always been confident that even if she did not inherit the fiendish saber's mantle, she could carve her own path. However, the expressions of Zhang Yushan and the other two flickered, appearing uncertain. They felt somewhat unhappy in their hearts. Xiao Chen replied calmly, "There is only one person who truly has a master-disciple relationship with this junior. She is the most important person in my life. She is my first teacher and the person I love the most." When Shimu heard that, he revealed a smile. If it was just his first teacher, there was no problem. As for the relationship between Xiao Chen and this first teacher, it was not something that Shimu cared about. Outside the hall, when Lu Ruyue heard what Xiao Chen said, she thought to herself, "The person I love the most already has a lover." Thinking of this, she felt a strange pain in her heart for some reason. Good. 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 Xiao Chen, since that is the case, I'll be direct. I want to take you in as my disciple and pass on my mantle to you. Not as a nominal disciple but as a personal disciple. Fiendish Saber Shimu revealed a relieved smile on his wrinkled face, appearing very happy. When Shimu smiled in high spirits, the wrinkles on his face disappeared, making him look much younger. A faux god, a peak bladesman at that, wanted to take Xiao Chen as a disciple. Even if Xiao Chen had not come into contact with the fiendish saber inheritance, he had no reason to reject it. After coming into contact with it, he had even less reason to reject. I am extremely honored. Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute. Fiendish saber Shimu stroked his beard and smiled. Very well. Take out the first painting that I got Ben Wei to give you. I'll explain it to you in detail. Given your talent and comprehension ability, you will definitely be able to comprehend it in less than a month with my guidance. When Xiao Chen heard that, his heart immediately skipped a beat. It's over. This painting was burned to ashes long ago. However, after thinking about it, he realized that he was already Shimu's disciple. There should be no problem with telling Shimu that he comprehended the inheritance and obtained the fiend blood. Reporting to Master, this disciple has already comprehended the first painting. However, the painting is already burned to ashes and cannot be taken out. Currently, I am comprehending the second painting. There are some things that I do not understand. How can a drop of rain destroy the sky? After Xiao Chen spoke, he took out the second painting and asked for guidance. However, even after Xiao Chen spoke for a long time, Shimu did not say anything. Xiao Chen maintained the posture of opening the painting, feeling somewhat embarrassed. The silence in the hall was somewhat scary. The atmosphere suddenly turned strange. Zhang Yushan and the others outside the hall rejoiced in their hearts. It seemed like there was a turning point, so they immediately turned nervous. What's wrong? Lu Ruyue clearly sensed that Xiao Chen's expression changed drastically after he took out the painting. Xiao Chen's heart thumped heavily. Unexpectedly, he broke out in a cold sweat. He said in confusion, "Master, who is your master?" Shimu had already withdrawn his smile. Now, he laughed coldly, making everyone tremble in fear. When Xiao Chen heard that, he said awkwardly, "Senior, you said it yourself earlier." Shimu retorted coldly, "I do not take in people who speak nonsense. You said that you comprehended it, so you comprehended it." Xiao Chen felt some rage in his heart. Even if you are a senior, a faux god expert who stands at the peak of the martial Tao, someone who I am not even an ant to you, there is no need to toy with me like this, right? You are the one who gave me the painting. You are also the one who stopped the other faux god experts from taking me in. You are also the one who summoned me and took me in as a disciple. I, Xiao Chen, did not beg you to take me in. What did I do wrong? What do you mean I speak nonsense? I, Xiao Chen, never boast. If I say it, it means it. Look carefully and see if I have comprehended it or not. Xiao Chen was also filled with rage. Earlier, when he saw Lu Riyue, he felt somewhat suppressed. Now that he vented his anger, he could no longer suppress it. His respect for a faux god expert was also tossed to the back of his mind. Xiao Chen's hot-bloodedness surged as he unleashed all the saber intent in his body, using the resentment in his heart. Then, Xiao Chen drew his saber and pointed it at the sky. The ground seemed to sense the rage and dissatisfaction in Xiao Chen's heart. It seemed to have a life of its own, resonating with his saber intent and surging like waves. What is a fiend? I rejoice with all things. In that instant, thousands of saber lights shot out from the ground. In just an instant, thousands of holes appeared in this ancient hall, which had a formation supporting it. Beams of light pierced through the holes and gathered on Xiao Chen's body, showing the tyranny of the fiendish saber. The light lasted for only 1 second. In the next moment, the entire ancient hall collapsed. This ancient hall, which had existed for countless years, turned into ruins without any signs of life. Zhang Yushan and the others outside the hall were flabbergasted. They were all shocked by Xiao Chen's grace at this moment. "Senior, did I speak nonsense?" Xiao Chen asked as he sheathed his saber. Fiendish saber Shimu's expression turned even more unsightly. The aura flowing in his body inspired fear. Before Shimu, Xiao Chen felt incredibly insignificant. However, at this moment, he decided to throw caution to the wind. Even if he died under the other party's palm strike, he would accept it. There were some things that Shimu was not in the wrong, so there was no need to compromise. Pu Ci. Just as Zhang Yushan and the others thought that Shimu would kill Xiao Chen with one palm strike, Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood. After vomiting this mouthful of blood, Shimu's aged face looked even older. His body even wobbled somewhat. This stunned Xiao Chen, somewhat at a loss. "Master." Lu Benwei quickly leaped over and went to Shimu's side to support him. Chapter 2150. Fiendish saber Shimu appeared somewhat weak. However, he was a faux god, after all. No one dared to underestimate him. However, they did not understand why he suddenly vomited blood. What a fellow! How dare he disrespect Master? Kill him! When Zhang Yushan saw the situation, he rejoiced in his heart. He knew that his opportunity had arrived. This was the best opportunity to kill Xiao Chen. Killing Xiao Chen would prevent Shimu from taking him as a personal disciple. Secondly, he would prevent anything from happening between Shimu and Lu Riyue. This was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Earlier, Xiao Chen's all things rejoicing together had shocked them. If they allowed Xiao Chen to condense a divine seal, how incredible would that be? Now was a good time to heavily injure Xiao Chen after he executed all things rejoicing together. Whoosh! Zhang Yushan and the other 2 were very scheming. With someone taking the lead, the other 2 immediately understood. The moment they attacked, they did not show any mercy, bringing out the full might of a half-step sovereign emperor. Before Lu Riyue could react, the 3 arrived above Xiao Chen and executed their killing moves, sealing off all angles of attack. No matter what Xiao Chen did, one of the killing moves would strike him. As long as he got struck, he would be severely injured. Then, one more move would finish him off. Coincidentally, when Xiao Chen saw Shimu vomiting blood, he did not know what to do. He focused his attention on Shimu, not knowing what happened. By the time Xiao Chen reacted, the 3 had already arrived before him, holding the initiative. Xiao Chen could not help feeling enraged. These 3 were extremely shameless. Xiao Chen had always been a decisive person. He instantly analyzed the situation. These 3 were half-step sovereign emperors, their cultivation suppressing his. Furthermore, they executed their killing moves. Coincidentally, Xiao Chen had executed all things rejoicing together, draining his soul energy and veritable essence energy. Even if he brought out 120% of his strength, he would only be able to dodge the killing moves of 2. Since that was the case, there was no point in dodging. Xiao Chen looked around and fixed his gaze on Zhang Yushan. Xiao Chen snorted coldly. Now, only Zhang Yushan remained in his world. Zhang Yushan's expression changed slightly. He saw a determined look in Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen's aura, this was a killing move that would not rest until Zhang Yushan was dead, even if they had to sacrifice 2 people's lives. That's right, Xiao Chen's plan was like this. Since he could not avoid this killer move anyway, so what if he took another one? It was better to die in glory than to live in dishonor. If they wanted to kill him, they had to be prepared to die first. Step down. However, just as this danger was about to erupt, Shimu shouted coldly. However, he did not move at all. Blood trickled down the corners of Zhang Yushan and the other 2's mouths. They were sent flying at the same time. After landing on the ground, they tumbled a few times, looking extremely miserable. If I want to kill someone, it's not your turn to do it for me. The 3 of you will be imprisoned in the Thunder Saber prison for a month. Panic immediately flashed in the eyes of Shimu and the other 2. The Lightning Saber prison was a saber prison that Shimu collected primal chaos lightning in the faux god world and refined with his own strength. It was used to train disciples for experiential training. However, it was extremely horrifying inside. Staying there was torture. It was fine to train for 1 or 2 days. However, if one stayed there for a month, ordinary people would be half dead when they came out. However, Zhang Yushan and the other 2 had no choice but to obey. It was not easy for them to obtain the guidance of a faux god, allowing their strength to grow rapidly. Although they were just nominal disciples, many people outside begged to be the disciples of a faux god expert. They could not give up on this opportunity so easily. The 3 knelt and said, "Disciples know their mistakes. We will definitely obey Master's orders." The 3 felt dissatisfied, but they still obediently withdrew and headed for the Lightning Saber prison. Shimu looked at Xiao Chen and thought for a long time. Then, he turned and left, not saying anything. Xiao Chen felt very confused. Sometimes, being able to distinguish right from wrong was not a good thing. As Xiao Chen looked at Shimu's departing figure, he felt somewhat guilty for some reason. Perhaps he had been too rash earlier, too rude. No matter what, Shimu was the one who gave him this inheritance painting. Earlier, when Zhang Yushan and the other 2 wanted to take the opportunity to kill him, Shimu dealt with it. Lu Ryue said softly, "To think that Master even gave you the inheritance painting. It looks like he really wants to take you in as his personal disciple." Xiao Chen felt slightly stunned. Then, he turned his head and asked, "However, why did he suddenly change his attitude towards me?" Lu Ryue remained somewhat silent. She did not understand why Xiao Chen was so unhappy after Master gave him the painting, even though he clearly comprehended it. "I don't know. Master's temper has always been strange. Aside from first senior brother, no one can figure it out." Xiao Chen sighed in his heart, showing some worry on his face. He could tell that Shimu's expression was truly somewhat weak. The essence blood of a faux god was already very precious. Spitting out a mouthful would be fatal. Unless Shimu had a hidden injury that had yet to heal, a very serious hidden injury. Earlier, Xiao Chen acted rashly, angering Shimu to the point that his hidden injury relapsed. This was not good. Xiao Chen did not know what to do at this moment, so he appeared very dispirited. "From what you said just now, your first master is already your lover?" Just at this moment, Lu Ryue suddenly asked. When Xiao Chen heard that, his originally dispirited heart immediately felt hurt. "My lover is right before my eyes, yet she is far away. Heaven knows, the earth knows, and I know. Only she does not know, yet she still asked this." After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chen asked softly, "Miss Lu, why do you ask this? Don't you know? My younger sister is deeply in love with you. Back then, she even wanted to ask the white dragon old ancestor to save you. I hope that you will not let her down," Lu Ryue replied. "If not for her, my father would not have interfered with the Golden Dragon Palace's line of sight, allowing you to leave the Divine Dragon Empire safely." When Xiao Chen heard this, he guffawed. However, his laughter sounded somewhat sorrowful. Xiao Chen felt heartache, not for himself but for Lu Riyue. To think that she would say such a thing. The White Dragon Old Ancestor. Your memories are either the White Dragon Old Ancestor or the White Dragon King. To think that you are speaking up for someone else. Back then, if I had the strength, I would have killed the White Dragon King first. As Xiao Chen laughed, he stopped after a long time. Then, he said sullenly, there is nothing between me and Ruyun that I let her down. It is just the relationship between siblings. After a few more years, she will understand. Miss Lu, it is best that you don't say such things in the future. Lu Riyue had good intentions, but Xiao Chen rejected her decisively. There seemed to be more to this than met the eye. Lu Riyue was an intelligent person. Xiao Chen did not hide his expression from her. After some thought, she asked, Young Master Xiao, you seem to have something that you cannot say? No. Xiao Chen replied calmly. His expression did not change, but his heart bled. There were some things that he knew but could not say. If he said it, the White Dragon Old Ancestor would rush to the Foe God world to kill him. Lu Riyue would be in danger as well. Furthermore, saying it might not be of any use. I'll just watch you like this for now. When I become strong one day, Lu Riyue immediately felt somewhat angry. Xiao Chen clearly had it, yet he said that he did not. I gave you a chance out of kindness, yet you lied to me. Lu Riyue snorted coldly and turned to leave. Xiao Chen's mood sank to rock bottom. The matter of fiendish saber Shimu and Lu Riyue. Xiao Chen always thought that his mental state was already very strong. However, when it came to the weakest feelings hidden in the depths of his heart, he could not even withstand one blow. Xiao Chen took out a bottle of moon-burning wine and sat on the rubble expressionlessly, drinking alone. At the summit of the mountain peak, fiendish saber Shimu looked at the cloud sea. His weak expression appeared somewhat desolate. Shimu was an extremely stubborn person. He did not want to show this desolate expression before Xiao Chen, only showing it now. The clouds shrouded the place, looking very majestic. Shimu had a head full of white hair and an aged expression. He muttered, I thought that Pan Huang was the only bladesman in the world who could defeat me. Looking at it today, this is truly laughable, extremely laughable, Pu Ci. Before Shimu finished speaking, he vomited another mouthful of blood. This time, he vomited blood 3 times in a row. Lu Benwei felt heartache as he watched from the side. He did not know how to advise Shimu. After a long time, Shimu muttered to himself, how can a drop of water shatter the firmament? Only with disrespect can one have the possibility to shatter the vault of heaven. Only with an unyielding heart can one endure 10,000 years of loneliness, and only then can one have the chance to shatter the vault of heaven. Only with an unchanging heart can a drop of water turn into an endless vault of heaven. As Shimu muttered to himself, he seemed to be speaking nonsense. At first, Lu Benwei did not understand. Slowly, he realized that his master was answering Xiao Chen's question. Although Xiao Chen did not understand, he firmly remembered it, not missing a single word. After Shimu finished speaking, Lu Benwei said, Master, I'll go and make arrangements for Xiao Chen's accommodations first. Shimu remained silent, not saying a word. Lu Benwei understood what Shimu meant. He performed a cupped fist salute and took his leave, heading down the mountain. Chapter 2151. In the ruins of the ancient palace, Xiao Chen drank alone, thinking about something. Lu Riyue's expression was equally unsightly. She was still angry at Xiao Chen, angry at him for lying to her despite having something he could not say. The two stood with their backs to each other, not saying a word. The atmosphere turned silent. Ka! Ka! Lu Benwei stepped on the rubble and appeared before the two. Lu Riyue gently drifted over to Lu Benwei's side. Then, she asked, Senior brother, how are Master's injuries? It's fine. It's just some old problems. Junior sister, there is no need to worry. Lu Riyue nodded slightly and took her leave, not willing to linger. Xiao Chen stood up and walked over to Lu Benwei. He said somewhat guiltily, "Sorry, big brother Lu. I was rash before this." Xiao Chen had always been like this. Wrong was wrong, right was right. Previously, he had been too stubborn and rash, causing Senior Shimu, whom he owed a debt of gratitude, to vomit blood. No matter what, he could not justify this. Xiao Chen thought about it. Back when he was in the ice-fire wasteland, if not for fate, he would have comprehended all things rejoicing together. Perhaps he would have died in the mouths of the mastiffs. With such a debt, he could not show off his skills before Senior Shimu. Lu Benwei patted Xiao Chen's shoulder and said, "Come with me. I'll tell you a story." Whoosh! 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 Xiao Chen followed Lu Benwei. He pushed off with his feet and soared into the air. Then, he arrived at a cliff and sat down to watch the clouds rise and fall. The clouds here were like fog, vast and boundless. In the blink of an eye, it looked like a boundless fog sea. Sitting at the cliff and watching the sea, one felt like they were in the sky or at the seaside. It was incredibly wondrous. Lu Benwei took out a flask of wine and said, "In the past, there was a person in a noble clan of swordsmen with 10,000 years of inheritance. His father, grandfather, and ancestors were all swordsmen. He started practicing the sword at the age of 3 and displayed outstanding talent. He bore the expectations of his clan. However, no one knew that what he truly loved was the saber. When he was 12, he was forced to leave his clan for the sake of practicing the saber. The facts proved that his choice was not wrong. He's handsome and can be considered a monster, but his talent in the saber Dao is even more monstrous. He is known as the Fiendish Saber. Before the age of 100, he became a sovereign emperor. His saber skills are unique. Many of the old seniors' understanding of the saber skills cannot compare to his. They all think that he will definitely become a powerful bladesman with boundless prospects. But he left home at a young age and was obsessed with saber techniques. He didn't learn anything about how to conduct himself. Her character has always been like that of a 12-year-old child. She is proud and stubborn, likes to listen to others' praises, and cannot stand external stimulation. Even after becoming a sovereign emperor, she still has the heart of a fragile girl. That's nothing. Most of the Sword Dao seniors like him, and many swordsmen praise him generously. As Xiao Chen listened at the side, he already knew that Lu Benwei was talking about the fiendish saber Shimu. To think that this Shimu came from a noble clan of swordsmen, since ancient times, there has been a battle between the sword and the saber. However, martial artists were always competitive, and they always wanted to see who was better. This was a noble clan of swordsmen. Furthermore, it was a noble clan of swordsmen that had existed for 10,000 years. Clearly, they placed great importance on the distinction between the sword and the saber. If not for their dedication to the sword Dao and love for the sword Dao, without an atmosphere where the sword reigns supreme, a noble clan of swordsmen would not be able to exist for more than 10,000 years. In such a noble clan where the sword reigns supreme, a scion suddenly appeared and went to learn the saber. This could be considered disgraceful. It was easy to imagine what kind of mockery and difficulties this scion would face. Hence, Shimu left home at the age of 12, leaving a noble clan of swordsmen that had existed for 10,000 years. However, something seemed to have happened later. Lu Benwei paused for a long time before continuing. Given his pride and stubbornness, as well as his heart of glass, it should not have been a big deal. However, after he advanced to sovereign emperor, he returned to the main clan, thinking that he could prove himself to his father and the clan with his accomplishments. Xiao Chen thought to himself, this is rather normal. Everyone wants to prove themselves. Back then, you all did not want me to practice the saber, making things difficult for me and mocking me. Now, I return with glory. But, he met a genius in the way of the sword that only appears once in 10,000 years in the family. Furthermore, he is also his cousin. In a situation where Xiao Chen's cultivation was lower than his, Xiao Chen used a 1-meter-long sword to break the saber in his hand. He lost miserably in front of the family elders, father, and grandfather. Xiao Chen was stunned when he heard that. Just by putting himself in Shimu's shoes, he knew how embarrassed Shimu must have been. Originally, he wanted to come back to prove that he wasn't wrong, but he didn't expect to prove that he was wrong. Furthermore, someone weaker than Shimu had broken his saber. To Shimu, who wanted to show his holiness, this was a fatal humiliation. He could imagine that the clansmen who looked at him at that time must have been sneering and disdainful. There's no need to feel sorry for yourself. Just train hard and kill your way back in the future. When Xiaochen heard this, he said softly, his tone filled with lofty sentiments and determination. That's right. That person thinks the same as you. A temporary setback is nothing. However, something happened just at this moment. A strange person using the saber suddenly appeared in the Great Thousand Realms. No one knows where he came from, but he just suddenly appeared. Then, he showed up in the central Great Realm with his superb saber skills. Soon, he rose up like a comet, kicking up huge waves among the bladesmen. This is a junior with even more talent than master. His saber skills are simply too dazzling, astonishing everyone. At the mention of this person, a trace of sorrow flashed in Lu Benwei's eyes. He no longer called Shimu by his alias and directly answered. This strange person who suddenly appeared was even more talented than Master. When word of this reached Master's ears, he naturally did not want to accept it. Master immediately fought with him and lost after 100 moves. After that, they fought a total of 9 times. Each time, the defeat was more devastating than the one before. The last time, Master advanced to Fo God and wanted to fight again. In the end, he lost before he could even draw his saber. Lu Benwei said sullenly. Later on, everyone learned that that person came from an abandoned land. He called himself Pan Huang and always had a smile that could melt ice on his face. He was also known as the Spring Snow Bladesman. Do you know how strong this person is? The current ranking of experts in the Saber Dao does not include this person. My master is the strongest person in name. There is no point. This person has already gone too far on the path of the Saber Dao. Pan Huang. Xiaochen's heart shook. Unexpectedly, he heard about Pan Huang's legend from Lu Benwei. He really wanted to say that he came from the same abandoned land as Pan Huang. However, after thinking about it, he held back and did not say it. This Spring Snow Bladesman dealt an even greater blow to Master than his younger cousin. After defeat, he no longer has any intention of returning to the clan. Feeling curious, Xiaochen asked, who is his younger cousin? Lu Benwei mocked, this younger cousin of his is incredible. He is the strongest person in the Sword Dao, Su Han's Han. The Yanwu dynasty's Su clan is an extraordinary noble clan famous for the sword. When Xiaochen heard that, he remained silent. When he thought about this senior Shimu, he felt really helpless. Shimu was naturally conceited. Unfortunately, the two greatest enemies he faced were the strongest person in the Saber Dao and the strongest person in the Sword Dao. No wonder Shimu looked so old and lethargic, his temper strange. Hence, you actually don't have to apologize to Master. Master has such a strange temper. Just don't mind it. He looks old, but in reality, he has the heart of a young girl. He is not willing to admit that your talent is stronger than his. However, he cherishes your talent and cannot bear to bury it. So, he ordered me to send you the inheritance painting. He is a very contradictory and tangled person. When Xiaochen heard that, he felt somewhat flabbergasted. Now, he finally understood everything. After being stunned for a long time, Xiaochen smiled in disappointment and frustration. Had I known earlier, if I had lost to Senior's statue back then, all this would not have happened. Lu Benwei smiled and said, that might really be possible. What should we do now? I'll find a place for you to stay first. Just follow Junior Sister and cultivate with me for the next few days. Don't mind our master-disciple relationship too much. Given Master's temper, he will definitely not take you in. However, if you refuse to leave, he will not chase you out either. At this point, Lu Benwei thought of something. Then, he said seriously, Oh, right. Before I left, I heard Master muttering to himself. It might be of some help to your problem. How can a drop of water shatter the sky? Only with disrespect can one have the possibility to shatter the vault of heaven. Only with an unyielding heart can one endure 10,000 years of loneliness, and only then can one have the chance to shatter the vault of heaven. Only with an unchanging heart can a drop of water turn into an endless vault of heaven. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up, feeling suddenly enlightened. The many layers of fog in the second inheritance painting slowly parted. After listening to the painting, Xiao Chen muttered to himself. Then, he quickly took out the painting and looked at it carefully. Unknowingly, Xiao Chen immersed himself in the painting, forgetting everything else. Lu Benwei sat at the side, quietly drinking wine and not disturbing Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen thought enviously, no wonder Master cannot bear to bury his talent. Back then, I looked at this second painting for more than 10 years before I managed to understand a little. I nearly lost myself in it and could not come out. Since then, Master has given up on letting me continue learning the fiendish saber inheritance. That would only bring harm and no benefits. However, now, with just a few words from his master, Xiao Chen seemed to understand everything, as if he already understood everything. Chapter 2152. Boom! After some time, the painting in front of Xiao Chen burst into flames. A drop of spiritual blood flickered in the ashes, looking very strange. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and revealed an expression of joy. He vaguely sensed that his saber Great Tao was one step closer to a Tao domain. The fiendish saber inheritance had many similarities to his flawless Great Tao. Back when Xiao Chen comprehended all things rejoicing together, he vaguely sensed that the fiendish saber inheritance could complete his saber Tao. Now that he comprehended the second move of the fiendish saber inheritance, he was even more certain that he could form a saber Tao domain if he worked hard on the fiendish saber inheritance. When Lu Benwei, who was at the side, saw this scene, he was greatly startled. The wine flask in his hand fell off the cliff. This scene stunned Lu Benwei. He said, how did you do it? Back then, Master said that there was a drop of fiendish blood in this inheritance painting. Back then, Master brought out the fiendish saber inheritance to its limits. He had to find another way to complete it himself. However, he still could not obtain the fiendish blood. This could be considered a lifelong regret. Xiao Chen felt excited. This fiendish saber inheritance seemed to have a mysterious origin. Even Senior Shimu could not completely comprehend it. Xiao Chen guessed that it might have something to do with his flawless saber Tao. However, he did not dare to be sure. Sorry. I forgot myself. Lu Benwei performed a cup-fist salute and said, Little brother Xiao Chen, congratulations on obtaining the second move of the inheritance, water droplet destroying the firmament. Congratulations. Xiao Chen returned the bow and said, although I comprehended it, I will still need a long time to obtain its true meaning and bring out its might. That is natural. However, there is no rush. Come with me. I will find a residence for you to stay in. In the future, you can cultivate here. There is no need to care about Shimu being the venerate. Just come with us to Fiend Cloud Hall to cultivate. Thank you, big brother Lu. Ha ha ha. Of course. After arranging a residence for Xiao Chen, Lu Benwei said, you can go directly to Fiend Cloud Hall tomorrow morning. Master will speak about the Tao there every morning. For the next few days, junior brothers Zhang Yushan and the other two will be in confinement. At that time, there might only be you, me, and junior sister Lu. Right. The cave was rather simple and crude. However, there were spirit-gathering formations, cultivation rooms, and secret realms. After looking around, he felt very satisfied. The primal chaos spiritual energy was much better than in his residence in the Divine Chen. Early the next morning, Xiao Chen opened his eyes and washed up. Then, he rushed to Fiend Cloud Palace. Xiao Chen, Xiao, a Chen, and Heaven, Spirit, Xiao Chen Yu. While, in the primal chaos, Mu, Yu, Xiao, and sun, the ilm. Of. With of king. Chen, Dao, of. He, Dao. Is. In today's lecture, we bladesmen naturally cultivate the saber Dao. There were 3,000 great Daos, and there were no distinctions between them. However, there were always some special great Daos that, once comprehended, would allow one's strength to reach astonishing heights. For example, the space-time Dao, the reincarnation Dao, the death Dao, and the life Dao. Unfortunately, our saber Dao is not a special saber Dao. However, this does not mean that the saber Dao is weaker than these great Dao, because the ultimate goal of the 3,000 great Dao is the heavenly Dao. In the end, they will all return to the same place. Shimu spoke indifferently from the platform. His voice was calm, but his meaning was simple. He didn't deliberately mystify them, making them feel like they understood, but he also didn't make them feel as if they didn't understand. Instead, he didn't make them feel as if they didn't understand at all. This was especially so when Shimu explained some special great Dao like the death Dao and the cycle Dao. This was refreshing to Xiaochen. As expected, it was good to have a master, especially an empty god realm expert. Xiaochen leaned against a tree and listened attentively. Suddenly, he heard the voice stop. When Xiaochen startled awake, he saw Shimu looking at him. Feeling a little guilty, he cupped his hands and said, "Xiaochen greets senior." Shimu glanced at Xiaochen and ignored him. He continued speaking on his own, making Xiaochen feel embarrassed. "Little brother Xiaochen, sit beside me." Lu Benwei waved his hand, resolving Xiaochen's awkwardness. Xiaochen thanked Lu Benwei. Seeing that Shimu did not object, he quickly sat down. On the other side, Lu Ryue looked at Xiaochen before withdrawing her gaze and fixing it on Shimu. After 15 minutes, Shimu finished his explanation. Lu Ryue started asking questions, asking what she did not understand. Shimu answered patiently, drawing inferences about other things. This made everyone feel like the clouds parted and the fog cleared up. Xiaochen could not help saying, "I have a question." If a person loses something in the Saber Dao, they will discover that these things are crucial to forming the Saber Dao domain. However, I discovered that these things are crucial to forming the Saber Dao domain. It is extremely difficult to pick them up again. Instead, they have become bottlenecks. How am I to break through? Shimu snorted coldly and retorted, "You are not my disciple. Why should I tell you?" When Lu Benwei saw the situation, he quickly said, "Master, disciple recently felt that my Saber Dao domain reached a bottleneck. I seem to have forgotten some of the things I learned in the past." Shimu glanced at Lu Benwei and said indifferently, "If you keep it in your mind, there will be an echo. Since it concerns a bottleneck, it must be a mark deep in your bones and soul. How can it be easily erased? If you are patient, you will eventually find it. If you feel that you have forgotten it and do not think about it, how can it respond to you?" After saying that, Shimu left. Xiaochen stood up and said, "Thank you, big brother Lu." Lu Benwei smiled casually and said, "It's fine. I saw that you were indeed in a rush. Given your talent, you should have comprehended the Saber Dao domain long ago." Xiaochen sighed and said, "If you keep it in your mind, there will be an echo. Senior Shimu is right. I need to be patient and persistent. My flawless Saber Dao will one day form a flawless Dao domain. Junior sister, please wait." When Lu Benwei saw Lu Ryue leave, he called out to her, "Junior brothers are not here today. However, we cannot delay this sparring session." Lu Ryue said, "Senior brother, you want to exchange moves with me? I am much stronger than you. Even if I suppress my cultivation, there is not much point. Let Xiaochen spar with you. The two of you are similar in strength. If you exchange moves, with me giving you pointers, you will definitely improve." When Lu Ryue heard this, she immediately became unhappy. She was a person who drew a clear line between love and hate. The first time they met, Xiaochen took liberties with her. Then, when she asked him to explain the secret, he lied to her that there was no secret. This made her very uncomfortable. Right now, Lu Ryue was not willing to exchange moves with Xiao Chen. However, due to her first senior brother, she had no choice but to agree. She said seriously, "Please give me pointers." Lu Ryue drew the short saber at her waist. A strong wind blew, and willow leaves fluttered about. Lu Ryue moved like a leaf in the wind, her figure hard to find. Lu Ryue attacked as soon as she said she would. She only wanted to defeat Xiao Chen quickly and end this exchange. As Xiao Chen watched Lu Ryue attack, he felt deeply moved. It was like he had returned to the days when he was at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Qingyun Peak. With one glance, he could tell the truth of the saber. To others, the name of the willow leaf saber might strike fear in their hearts. However, to Xiao Chen, it was very familiar. Although the willow leaf saber was a saber technique that Lu Ryue created, it was derived from the Qingyun Peak 7 secret techniques, especially the saber before her. This clearly had the shadow of the clear wind chop from back then. It followed the body like a shadow, only seeing the cool wind and not the saber. However, this time, it was even more exquisite. Not only could she not sense where the saber intent was, but her figure was also erratic. What was even rarer was that with the support of soul energy and the wind saber domain, its aura was incomparable. Dang! Xiao Chen drew the tyrant saber, and his saber moved like lightning. It looked like a casual strike, but it happened to strike the opening of Lu Ryue's move. "Hey!" Lu Benwei exclaimed softly, and his eyes lit up. Where did he find this opening? He did not even notice it. Lu Ryue was even more startled. When she saw Xiao Chen's expressionless face, she could not help feeling even angrier. Lu Ryue executed the willow leaf saber again. It gently drifted up and soared up. It was like a phantom of light and shadow, moving as fast as a strong wind. When Xiao Chen drew his saber, he blocked the attack at the critical moment again, appearing very ingenious. Good! Lu Benwei could not help clapping and cheering, revealing a smile. In the blink of an eye, 100 moves had passed. Xiao Chen dealt with the moves as they came. Lu Ryue's originally unhappy mood had already drifted far away. She was now immersed in exchanging moves with Xiao Chen. She felt that Xiao Chen's moves were very profound. He always struck her weak points, allowing her to quickly make up for her deficiencies. This had a miraculous effect on the progress of her saber techniques. The most important thing was that Lu Ryue felt very satisfied for some reason. It was like the scene before her had become familiar, making her immersed in it unconsciously. She had never experienced this kind of feeling from any of the martial practitioners who had exchanged blows with her before. After 1,000 moves, the two of them sheathed their sabers and retreated. Ha, good. Junior sister, I was right, wasn't I? Exchanging blows with brother Xiao Chen is indeed very helpful to you. Lu Benwei laughed as he walked over and said softly. As if. Lu Ryue was afraid that she would not be able to hide her joyful expression. She put on a straight face and turned around to leave. However, the instant she turned around, her heart pounded heavily. Lu Benwei was confused and scratched his head. Isn't it good? Chapter 2153. After Lu Ryue left, only Xiao Chen and Lu Benwei remained in Fiend Cloud Hall. Looking at Lu Ryue's back, Xiao Chen entered deep thought. He was in a rush to tell Lu Ryue the truth. However, he warned himself over and over again that he was not strong enough. If he said it out loud, he would die early. The person he loved the most was right in front of him, but he had to pretend to be a stranger. Only Xiao Chen himself could understand the bitterness within. Brother Xiao Chen, this blade technique of yours is truly refreshing. However, the flaws are also obvious, Lu Benwei said with a smile. Every saber technique had its flaws. There was no perfect martial technique or cultivation technique in the world. Xiao Chen naturally understood this principle. He did not get angry. Instead, he said politely, Senior brother, please guide me. No problem. After some pointers, Xiao Chen was shocked to discover that the seemingly unremarkable Lu Benwei's skills with the saber were actually so exquisite. Not only did his cultivation surpass Xiao Chen's, but his understanding of saber techniques also shocked Xiao Chen. Shimu was far from as simple as Xiao Chen thought. If it were Shimu, he would be an existence that others could only look up to, only watch from afar and not talk about in detail. Lu Benwei was perfect. He could discuss with Xiao Chen in detail, and they complemented each other. Thank you, Big Brother Lu. I really benefited a lot. Xiao Chen cupped his hands and thanked him sincerely. Lu Benwei smiled and nodded. You're too polite. Remember to come again tomorrow. Although Master didn't accept you as a disciple, you should know what this means, right? I understand, Xiao Chen said softly. This meant that Shimu only could not get over the hurdle in his heart. Although he felt apologetic, he truly cherished Xiao Chen's talent and did not want him to be buried. The next day, Xiao Chen arrived at Fiend Cloud Hall on time. Then, he sat beside Lu Benwei and listened to Shimu's teachings. After Shimu left, Xiao Chen started exchanging moves with Lu Ryue. The two did not say anything. However, the tacit understanding between them didn't require too many words. Both of them could feel a strange feeling flowing in their hearts. Not only did their strengths improve significantly, but Lu Ryue found this feeling strange. However, she did not want to embarrass herself by asking Xiao Chen about it. Xiao Chen was well aware of this, but he was unwilling to take the initiative to explain. Time flew by like water. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. In the past 5 years, the two of them had not spoken more than 3 sentences. Lu Ryue gradually felt that the tacit understanding between the two of them had reached an incredible level. She felt that it was strange. But every time she saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, as if he was unwilling to say anything. She was a little angry and recalled that he had once said that he already had someone he loved the most. His heart, which had been slightly moved, gradually cooled down and calmed down. 5 years. Just like that, Xiao Chen stayed in Fiend Cloud Hall, listening to Senior Shimu's teachings for 5 years. Lu Benwei even asked questions on his behalf, indirectly receiving countless pointers. Although they were not master and disciple in name, they were already master and disciple in reality. 5 years. He had spent 5 years to complete his Saber Dao. He relied on the Ice-Fire Divine Origin to raise his Ice Great Dao to the Ice Dao domain. 2 years ago, Xiao Chen grasped 3 Dao domains. However, he did not rush to form a divine seal to advance to half-step Sovereign Emperor. This was because Lu Benwei said that Xiao Chen had not merged his 3 Dao domains. If he forcefully formed a divine seal, it would result in an imperfect divine seal. Furthermore, this divine seal was the crux of forming a divine flame. If he rashly formed a divine seal, it would result in an imperfect divine seal. Xiao Chen's strength would soar rapidly. He might be happy for a while, but it would be over when he reached the Faux God realm. Following Lu Benwei's advice, Xiao Chen did not form a divine seal for the past 2 years, waiting for an opportunity. Counting the time, he had already been in the Faux God realm for 7 years. More than half of the 10 years had already passed. During the 5 years in Fiend Cloud Hall, aside from cultivating on the mountain, Xiao Chen would challenge the Trial Tower if Senior Shimu did not speak about the Dao. Right now, Xiao Chen no longer cared about breaking records. He only challenged the Trial Tower to test what he learned in the mountain. Although Xiao Chen did not have any intention of breaking records, he had already broken many records along the way. Now, 2 people's names were the most eye-catching on the glory stele in front of the Trial Tower. One was Chu Chaoyun, and the other was the Heavenly Alliance's Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen heard that Chu Chaoyun had already advanced to Sovereign Emperor and left. Xiao Chen did not get a chance to meet him. On this particular day, Senior Shimu finished his lecture in Fiend Cloud Hall. As per usual, Xiao Chen and Lu Ryue started exchanging moves. The two had interacted day and night for the past 5 years and already had a tacit understanding with each other. Without saying anything, they both made their moves and started exchanging moves in Fiend Cloud Hall. At the side, Zhang Yushan and the other two showed helplessness in their eyes. This was especially so for Zhang Yushan, who felt rage in his helplessness. Back then, Zhang Yushan had endured 3 months in the Thunder Saber domain after much difficulty. Unexpectedly, he had to meet Xiao Qin again for a few years. What Zhang Yushan found even more unacceptable was that his first senior brother always sent him to exchange moves with Lu Riyue. Now, it was Xiao Qin. After some negotiation, Zhang Yushan wanted to send Xiao Qin away. However, when he learned that his first senior brother would teach him a lesson, he could not accept it. After making a fool of himself in front of everyone, he could only watch Xiao Qin exchange moves with Lu Riyue. However, Zhang Yushan could not do anything about it and could only watch helplessly. If not for wanting to listen to Shimu's lecture for the past 5 years, Zhang Yushan would have left long ago. When he saw Shimu every day, he felt frustrated. After watching for a while, Zhang Yushan took the lead to leave with a cold expression. Soon, only Xiao Qin, Lu Riyue, and Lu Benwei remained. After exchanging moves, Lu Riyue surprisingly did not turn around and leave. She looked at Xiao Qin and said, "You should be about to form your divine seal, right?" Xiao Qin nodded and said, "If I want to, I can form my divine seal at any time." "In that case, quickly form your divine seal. The Trial Tower's 81st floor will open in 3 days. At that time, the people of the 5 super factions will participate. If you do not have the strength of a half-step sovereign emperor, you will be at a disadvantage." When Xiao Qin heard that, he felt it was strange. He knew that the Trial Tower's 81st floor was open. He was also prepared to form his divine seal within these 3 days and advance to half-step sovereign emperor. In reality, if he had only merged his Thunder Dao domain with his soul 5 years ago, he would have been able to form his divine seal. However, he waited for 3 years to form his third Dao domain. After that, he waited for 2 years to form his perfect divine seal. Now, as long as Xiao Qin wanted to, he could form his divine seal easily. He would not even need 15 minutes. Xiao Qin's accumulations were already extremely horrifying. He could form his divine seal with 1 Dao domain in the faux god world. Only outstanding talents dared to condense a divine seal with 2 Dao domains. Those who condensed 3 Dao domains like Xiao Qin were few and far between. Hence, Xiao Qin felt that Lu Riyue's words were superfluous. What exactly was she trying to say? When Lu Riyue heard that, she said, "Since you said that you can form your divine seal at any time, then do it now. I'll watch from here." Xiao Qin immediately revealed a strange expression as he looked at Lu Benwei. Lu Benwei waved his hand, not understanding what Xiao Qin meant. "What's wrong? Are you lying to me again?" Bitterness flashed on Lu Riyue's face. Clearly, she still felt conflicted about Xiao Qin lying to her 5 years ago. When Xiao Qin saw Lu Riyue like this, he could no longer hide his usual cool and indifferent expression. Xiao Qin's eyes turned somewhat moist as he smiled bitterly. However, this smile eventually turned into lofty sentiments. He said seriously, "Why would I lie to you? I said that I can break through at any time, so I can do so at any time." Right after Xiao Qin spoke, 3 different lights flowed around his body. One was purple, representing the Thunder Dao domain. One was white, representing the Ice Dao domain. The last one was the most dazzling, representing Xiao Qin's flawless Dao domain. With just a thought, the 3 Dao domains entered Xiao Qin's forehead and entered his soul pool, merging with the azure-colored dragon seal that represented his soul. There were no obstructions. Everything happened naturally. The Dao domains merged with his soul, continuously changing. When the changes stopped, a golden dragon seal appeared like it was alive. It contained a supreme dragon might and the sharpness of a saber. It was accompanied by lightning and snow in his soul pool. A perfect divine seal. The 3 mysterious phenomena perfectly merged with Xiao Qin's soul, appearing in his soul pool. This golden dragon seal was a perfect divine seal. Boom! A soaring saber intent erupted from Xiao Chen's body, illuminating the entire fiend cloud hall. The mysterious phenomena in Xiao Chen's soul pool appeared, encasing the entire fiend cloud hall. Zhang Yushan and the others, who were halfway down the mountain, looked up and saw this mysterious phenomenon. Their expressions changed drastically. 3 mysterious phenomena. 3 mysterious phenomena. This fellow really condensed a perfect mysterious phenomenon. Up in Fiend Cloud Hall, Xiao Chen withdrew the various mysterious phenomena back into his body with a thought. In just an instant, Xiao Chen underwent a rebirth, condensed his divine seal, and advanced to half-step Sovereign Emperor. His strength reached a horrifying level. It looked like success came naturally. However, only Lu Benwei, who accompanied Xiao Chen, knew the loneliness and accumulation he had to endure. For this moment, Xiao Chen had put in 7 years of hard work. Very good. The hidden bitterness on Lu Riyue's face vanished, and she smiled. This was the first time she smiled before Xiao Chen in 5 years. This smile distracted Xiao Chen somewhat. When he startled to his senses, he only saw Lu Riyue's back. Lu Benwei was about to congratulate Xiao Chen when he suddenly slapped himself on the head. I got confused. Today is the day junior sister Ryue leaves the faux god world. Her 10-year period is up. Chapter 2154. Before I leave, I will watch you advance to half-step Sovereign Emperor and seek some peace of mind. That is good. Zhang Yushan felt very happy, feeling the pent-up resentment in his heart for more than 5 years being released. However, what was the point? In the end, he could only watch the person he loved depart before his eyes. As for me, only then can I leave in peace. Damn it, come, let's send off junior sister Lu. The two of us are stupid. To think that we forgot about such an important matter. She must be angry at us for not even remembering this. Zhang Yushan could not tell Lu Benwei or Lu Riyue about this pain. He could only hide it in his heart and pretend to be cold. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen had formed a perfect divine seal. He immediately turned back, wanting to see if it was real or fake. This startled Lu Benwei into leaving quickly, somewhat flustered. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he said, "I'm really flustered. Go and look for Master. Master will definitely be able to save him." Since Lu Riyue was not willing to say it, there was no need to force it. Xiao Chen's ice, lightning, and Dao domains also turned chaotic, uncontrollable. Lu Benwei stepped forward and checked Xiao Chen's pulse. He immediately panicked from fright. Xiao Chen came to the Great Thousand Realms to search for you. However, he ended up meeting her. Xiao Chen had even interacted with her day and night, but he felt wronged and lonely. No one could tell him about it. No one could understand his pain. Lu Benwei blamed himself. He turned around, wanting to give chase. However, when he looked back, he discovered that Lu Riyue was long gone. It was just that no one knew what the story behind this was. Using it on Xiao Chen was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. However, when Lu Benwei sent Xiao Chen over, Xiao Chen was already on his last breath. Lu Benwei only knew that Xiao Chen had just broken through to half-step Sovereign Emperor, and his chances of survival were slim. A crack appeared in Xiao Chen's heart, and the veritable essence energy in his body turned chaotic. Uncontrollable veritable essence energy filled Xiao Chen's meridians. It was like a wild horse running amok in Xiao Chen's body. Whoosh! 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 Lu Riyue waited. This wait lasted 5 years. On Xiao Chen's forehead, there was also a flame that contained divine might. It emitted a gentle light that enveloped Xiao Chen. Given Lu Riyue's intelligence, how could she not guess the mysteries between the two of them after being together for 5 years? Xiao Chen's vitality was weakening bit by bit. Lu Benwei turned pale with fright. She turned to look at Xiao Chen, but just as she was about to speak, she realized that the latter's delicate face was frighteningly pale. "Master, brother Xiao Chen, can he still be saved?" A cold smile flashed in Zhang Yushan's eyes as he said, "This Xiao Chen is crippled. He forcefully broke through and condensed a perfect divine seal, but he suffered a backlash. This is great. I reckon that even if Master is saved, he will be a cripple. Then what should we do? Helpless and heartbroken, he could only swallow it alone. If Xiaochen had entered the trial tower's 81st floor as a heaven-defying sovereign personage, he would have been in great danger. Shimu did not answer. Instead, he said, "Tell me everything that happened today." Lu Benwei asked as he looked at Shimu anxiously. Xiaochen's body was as cold as ice at one moment and incredibly hot at another. After a while, it felt like his entire body was filled with a sharp saber intent. Just a slight touch would leave wounds riddled in his body, and his palm would be covered in blood. When will he wake up? Since Xiaochen saw Lu Riyue in Fiend Cloud Hall, he had interacted with her day and night. Every time he saw her, his heart ached more, like a silver needle stabbing into his heart. Xiaochen wanted to make a move and stabilize the veritable essence energy in Xiaochen's body. He believed that given his cultivation, he should be able to do so easily. Of course, it was practically impossible for a bona fide faux god to lower his status to save someone. After Lu Benwei vanished, 3 people appeared in Fiend Cloud Hall. They were Zhang Yushan and the other 2. "Little brother Xiaochen, what's wrong?" The answer to Zhang Yushan's question was a mouthful of blood. Without any warning, Xiaochen vomited a mouthful of blood and fell over. Even Shimu only had 1 portion. After using it, it was gone. After all, they were all junior brothers of the same sect. The 3 wondered if they should pretend to show concern to their master to gain a good impression. In the past 5 years, countless silver needles had been stabbed into Xiaochen's chest and heart. Shimu did not think too much. He immediately took out the primal chaos heaven replenishing ointment and pulled Xiaochen back from the gates of hell. Lu Benwei could not dodge in time, and blood splashed all over him. By the time he recovered his wits, Xiaochen had already fallen to the ground. Xiaochen thought about it and agreed. After all, they had been together for so many years. Xiaochen even forgot to send him off. How could he not be angry? However, Xiaochen did not know what kind of heartache Xiaochen had endured for the past 5 years. How could someone who had just advanced to half-step sovereign emperor have such a scary expression? That was Shimu's faux god flame. Shimu was not a doctor and did not understand much about it. He was not good at saving people. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps forever, Lu Benwei immediately felt somewhat flustered. Clearly, something was wrong with Xiaochen's current state. However, Xiaochen could not say it. He did not dare to, and he could not. He could only grit his teeth and put on a stern face, pretending that nothing had happened. This stunned Xiaochen. Then, he suddenly understood. The trial tower's 81st floor was open. At that time, all the experts of the 5 super factions would appear. Some false emperors in closed-door cultivation would not miss out on this opportunity. Xiaochen ignored the strangeness of Xiaochen's physical body and picked him up, flying towards the clouds. Xiaochen tried a few times, even trying to forcibly suppress Xiaochen, but he suffered an intense backlash. If something went wrong, even if Xiaochen did not die, he would die because of Xiaochen. I already said long ago that this fellow is trash. To think that Master gave him the inheritance painting, and we did not even let him take a look. Just thinking about it makes me angry. Xiaochen did not know what cultivation technique Xiaochen cultivated, but the veritable essence energy in his body was vast and heavy. At this moment, his veritable essence energy turned chaotic, like a group of demons dancing around. Even when they were about to leave, Xiaochen still had no intention of saying anything, so Xiaochen could only guess. However, when Lu Benwei actually started, he discovered that his thinking was too simple. At this moment, Xiaochen lay on a jade bed, his entire body wrapped in white bandages. The bandages were covered with the primal chaos heaven replenishing ointment that Shimu collected. This ointment was incredibly precious. Even if a faux god's physical body suffered fatal damage, it could recover it to its original state. Xiaochen's expression immediately turned somewhat unsightly. He sighed softly, Junior Sister Lu, it looks like you are really angry. Xiao Chen's method was crude, but the effect was simple and crude. He was much more skilled than many peak doctors. Otherwise, the doctors of the Great Thousand Realms would not be able to survive. Xiao Chen once said that he had someone he loved the most, so he could only let his imagination run wild. Even if his heart burned with passion, he could only warn himself not to think about it. Let's go and drink. We have to celebrate this matter. The trial tower's 81st floor 3 days from now has nothing to do with him. Now, he suffered a backlash and is just a cripple. At that time, I can do whatever I want with him. These three were at the middle of the mountain. When they saw the mysterious phenomenon above Fiend Cloud Hall, they were shocked. However, Xiao Chen had really lied to Lu Riyue. He did have many things to say to her. Xiao Chen could fight a false emperor as a half-step sovereign emperor. When he became a sovereign emperor in the future, his strength would be immeasurable. After Lu Benwei finished speaking, Shimu entered deep thought. Every illness had a source. The source of Xiao Chen's illness was definitely Lu Riyue. His physical body is fine. He managed to preserve his life. However, even if a divine doctor were alive, he would not be able to save his heart. The heart pain that Xiao Chen had suppressed for 5 years erupted at this moment. At this moment, Xiao Chen felt an incredible heartache. The silver needles that were stuck in his heart for the past 5 years popped out one by one. The originally well-hidden wound immediately became riddled with holes. Senior brother, what should we do now? Should we go over and show some concern? Damn it! What's going on? Zhang Yushan scolded, concern my ass. I can't wait for him to die now. Master does not say it on the surface, but he is a true inheritor in his heart. First senior brother takes good care of him. Even junior sister Riyue has an ambiguous relationship with him. Just thinking about it makes me angry. If not for him appearing, the fiendish saber inheritance and junior sister Riyue would be mine. I might be skilled in martial arts, but I can form a perfect divine seal with a thought. How could she feel such familiarity and warmth for a stranger for no reason? Pu Ci. Today was the day Lu Riyue left the faux god world. Xiao Chen's heart ached. He could indeed advance to half-step sovereign emperor at any time. He had not lied to Lu Riyue. However, Lu Riyue did not know that she could advance to half-step sovereign emperor at any time and wanted to personally witness it before she left. She could only use the most precious spirit herbs to stabilize Xiao Chen's physical injuries. Then, she used the faux god flame to forcibly suppress the chaotic veritable essence energy and great Tao in Xiao Chen's body. Even though Zhang Yushan's cultivation was much higher than Xiao Chen's, he did not dare to act rashly after his divine energy entered. After interacting with Xiao Chen for 5 years, Zhang Yushan clearly knew everything. However, he could not say it out loud. Zhang Yushan had not expected a perfectly fine person to be on the verge of death all of a sudden. Even though Lu Riyue had lost all her memories, completely forgetting about Xiao Chen, the Sky Dome Realm, and Qingyun Mountain, Zhang Yushan could not lie to Zhang Yushan about the feeling of interacting with Xiao Chen. This is really delightful. You reap what you sow, serves you right for forcing your breakthrough. Coincidentally, they saw the scene of Xiao Chen vomiting a mouthful of blood and barely breathing. Chapter 2155. Boom! Mu Zifeng had no choice but to come. The other super factions all had major characters holding down the fort. One of the most important points was the divine medicine that could extend the lives of real gods and empty god experts. Anyone who could obtain the divine medicine would die. Fiendish Saber Shimu's disciples spread the news. Then, he checked and confirmed that Xiao Chen had not appeared. False emperors were horrifying existences that could refine divine energy. Unless a sovereign emperor appeared, no one could defeat them. The insufferably arrogant Fang Xiaobai, who stood beside Shimu, said, "Your Highness King Jin, I heard that Xiao Chen failed to form his perfect divine seal. Now, it is unknown whether he is dead or alive. He will probably miss this trial tower. At the mention of Pan Huang, Shimu could not help recalling the sad matters of his clan. He shook his head and sighed before turning to leave. It would be a great pity for the sovereign personages in the faux god world if they missed this opportunity. Xiao Hozun said, "That's right. With our status, there is no need to keep competing with a mixed-blood dragon. These princes and the noble clans of the dynasty are our true opponents. In the past, Shaochen really lowered our statuses. As long as one obtained a 10,000-year-old herb king, one would obtain a great reward. Aside from that, there were many rare divine materials and all sorts of natural treasures in that paradise. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps forever." Shimu revealed a contemplative expression. Then, he muttered, "The pain reached its peak, and the heart no longer hurts." On this particular day, many people gathered around the trial tower in the Holy Domain's divine capital. It did not matter whether the Heavenly Alliance ranked last or not. The Heavenly Alliance did not rely on outstanding talents to establish itself. Who is Xiao Chen? Strange. Why can't the crack in his heart heal? There is clearly a crack, but the life force in his heart is incredibly strong. There is no problem at all. Strange, strange. Ah. The only ones that could be sent out were Gongzi Lan, Wu Meng, and Mou. However, these three were only half-step sovereign emperors. What was a herb king? The opening of the trial tower's 81st floor was a great test to see which super faction could come out on top. This also represented their strength and status. After Xiao Chen suffered a backlash when he formed his divine seal, he would have one less strong opponent. This time, he could only be at the bottom, but it didn't matter. Fiendish Saber Shimu's words were somewhat vague, making it hard for Lu Benwei to calm down. He said seriously, "Master, there are still 3 more days before the trial tower's 81st floor opens. If Xiao Chen cannot make it in time, he will be at a disadvantage." Then, Shimu's eyes lit up as he looked at the sleeping Xiao Chen, who was wrapped in white cloth. Then, he revealed an expression of admiration. Lu Benwei was slightly startled when he heard that. Obviously, he had still underestimated the seriousness of the matter. But who could have imagined that such a thing would happen? Originally, Xiao Chen planned to participate in the 81st floor's trial after advancing to half-step sovereign emperor. They smiled and nodded at each other, but each of them had their own strengths and were secretly competing with each other. Feng Xiaobai said softly, "It's fine. I hope to take revenge myself." Lu Benwei said, "Brother Xiao Chen seems to have a martial technique called heartbreaking style. Every time he used this technique, his chest would crack open. The pain stimulated his entire body's potential to deliver a sure kill strike. However, he rarely used it. I heard that when he practiced this cultivation technique to the peak, his heart would no longer feel pain." Chu Feng said indifferently, "No wonder I did not see anyone in the Heavenly Alliance that I cared about. How unfortunate. This king was prepared to help you vent your anger. It looks like I can only wait for the future." After seeing the heartbreaking style, Shimu no longer worried about whether Xiao Chen could wake up. This is a great opportunity. To think that this fellow ruined it. Xiao Hozun, who had already advanced to false emperor, appeared somewhat disappointed. However, some joy flashed in his heart. This person was the Tianwu dynasty's prince conferred the title of King Jin, Chu Feng. This piece of information was most likely accurate. Lu Benwei felt somewhat anxious, but he could not do anything. If his master could save him, he would have done so long ago. Any spirit herb that surpassed 1,000 years of lifespan and lived to 10,000 years could be called a herb king. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Be it the Bushin Palace, the Primal Chaos Palace, or the other super factions, their peak outstanding talents had already become sovereign emperors and left. However, there were still many false emperors remaining. Only sovereign personages could enter. This was an opportunity for the disciples of the various super factions. The disciples of the Heavenly Alliance, the Profound Heaven Holy Land, the Universe Origin Sect, the Hidden Spirit Temple, and the Bushin Palace, 5 super factions gathered here. With a glance, there were at least 1,000 people. Shimu's pale face revealed some doubt. That person is already crippled. This time, we have to pay more attention to the profound Heaven Holy Land, the Bushin Palace, and the Hidden Spirit Temples group of Baldis. As long as we obtain a fortuitous encounter in paradise and leave the faux god world, the two of us will be able to move unhindered among the younger generation. This was sincere admiration. This Xiao Chen's talent in the saber Dao surpassed his own. In the blink of an eye, it fell apart. The great paradise no longer existed. Shimu said coldly, "You are still thinking about paradise. You are rather optimistic. If he does not wake up, he really will not wake up. At that time, even if he recovers from his injuries, he will just be a walking dead." Master, what should we do with little brother Xiao Chen?" However, Xiao Chen, whom Shimu valued the most, did not appear. He heard that Xiao Chen suffered a backlash when he tried to condense a perfect divine seal, crippling him. Due to the seal, it would be extremely difficult for faux gods and sovereign emperors to enter this paradise. This person was the Heavenly Alliance's Lord Mu Zifeng. The opening of the Trial Tower's 81 floors concerned the prestige of the various super factions. The Trial Tower's 81 floors were mysterious and unfathomable. Ordinary people would be done for after reaching the 80th floor. After Shimu spoke, he stepped forward. A divine light appeared in his eyes as he prodded Xiao Chen's chest with one hand. Only some of the older generation knew that the 81 floors connected to a herb field known as Paradise. Not only could one obtain many rewards, but the super faction they belonged to would also be greatly rewarded. Just at this moment, a person wearing luxurious robes embroidered with the Universe Origin True Flame and a golden sash appeared at the Universe Origin Palace's location. He gave off a noble air, clearly showing off his noble status. With one look, it was clear that this was a member of the Tianwu dynasty's royal clan. However, the concept of a divine herb was too vague. In the past 100,000 years, only one divine herb had been found in this paradise. As long as the Heavenly Alliance could not be destroyed and rise to the ranks of a super faction, it would be sufficient. The Heavenly Alliance had gathered all the merchant associations in the world and held boundless wealth. If the Heavenly Alliance's cultivators grew stronger and revealed their tyrannical aura, it would not be a good thing. If they advanced to faux god in the future, they might become the second Pan Huang. Aside from the Universe Origin Palace's people, the profound Heaven Holy Lands Mu Yunzhu and the Bushin Palaces by Yunfei and Xiao Hozun also felt somewhat disappointed. That was a paradise that had existed in this primal chaos space before the heavenly realm shattered. Unfortunately, when the heavenly realm shattered, this paradise suffered a destructive blow. At the place where the Heavenly Alliance disciples gathered, the leader was a person as handsome as a painting, dressed in embroidered robes. A total of 6 of the 7 plum blossoms on his chest were lit up. The center of the flower looked like snow, and the petals were inlaid with golden threads. This exuded nobility and pride, not tacky at all. Mu Zifeng was not in a good mood. The Heavenly Alliance's Grim Reaper Lin Feng was in closed-door cultivation, unable to come out. The Holy Lord, the Holy Domain's divine capital, the divine capital's Holy Lord. Mu Zifeng thought to himself, the Heavenly Alliance has too few outstanding talents. The main reason is that its accumulations cannot compare to the other factions. Mu Zifeng was more worried about Xiao Chen. He did not know how Xiao Chen was doing. The opening of Paradise was like a great test for the various super factions, as well as a competition. Bai Yunfei smiled happily as he spoke softly. The only thing that could be discovered in Paradise was the 10,000-year-old Herb King. Above that, the 81st floor was not open. Heartbreaking stance. How could someone with such boldness be trapped in a maze? I believe that he will be able to come out. Mu Zifeng's expression changed slightly as he looked at the top of the trial tower, at the mysterious masked person. Then, he said, "Holy Lord." At that time, all the super faction disciples in the faux god world who had not advanced to Sovereign Emperor would have to enter. However, no one knew when Xiao Chen would wake up. Shimu stretched out his hand and waved, retrieving the faux god flame on Xiao Chen's forehead. Then, he sighed softly, "Stand guard here. His physical injuries are no longer a problem." Hey! Suddenly, a mighty aura came from the true god palace. In the next moment, the mighty aura spread out in all directions, putting heavy and majestic pressure on everyone present. Only some of the remaining true gods made a move and protected a rather large piece of paradise. They sealed it in the trial tower's 81st floor and modified it into a land of trials. Chapter 2156. The Holy Lord was the master of the Holy Domain's divine capital. Rumor had it that he possessed the strength of a true god. However, he had never revealed his true cultivation, making it hard for others to fathom. The 5 super factions all revered this person. However, this person only appeared in the faux god world, never in the Great Thousand Realms. Rumor had it that time flowed too quickly in the Great Thousand Realms. He could only extend his life in the faux god world. This person no longer cared about mundane matters. Now, even the Holy Domain's divine capital was managed by the 5 super factions. He would not ask about anything. The Holy Lord was mysterious and low profile, so low profile that others overlooked his existence. However, when he appeared, everyone revered him, suddenly remembering that he was the true master of the Holy Domain's divine capital. At the top floor of the trial tower, the Holy Lord wore a mask, hiding his appearance and expression. The reason why he had appeared at this moment was because he was the only one who could open the 81st layer that sealed paradise. Greetings, Holy Lord. Everyone revered the Holy Lord. The powerhouses of the various super factions performed cupped fist salutes. The Holy Lord nodded slightly. Then, he stretched out a hand and gently tapped the air. A spot of black light appeared. In that instant, the black light expanded into a black whirlpool. It looked like a black hole that could suck in one's soul essence, appearing very mysterious. Soon, this black hole expanded continuously, turning into a huge whirlpool. The people present all felt somewhat anxious and nervous. Paradise was filled with many uncertainties. No one knew what fortuitous encounter they would obtain in the end. It was this uncertainty that filled everyone with anxiety and anticipation. The disciples of the 5 super factions, Bushin Palace, the Profound Heaven Holy Land, the Hidden Spirit Temple, the Universe Origin Sect, and the Heavenly Alliance, all stared at the black hole like they were possessed. The seal has already been opened. If there is any danger, everyone can withdraw at any time. The Holy Lord's aged voice rang out. Then, he withdrew silently, his whereabouts unknown. Perhaps he had already gone to the true God Palace, or perhaps he was hiding somewhere, watching with the crowd. Go, then. Whoosh. No one knew who started it, but the false emperors of the various super factions took the lead, unwilling to fall behind, wanting to be the first to enter paradise. The Heavenly Alliance's people were at the very end, slightly inferior. Those who could enter the Void God realm were all elites among elites. Everyone here was an elite among elites. In the Great Thousand Domains, they could all be called heavenly geniuses. The scene of over 1,000 outstanding talents moving out at the same time was truly spectacular. This was especially so for the leaders. They were all false emperors infinitely close to divine Vane Realm's sovereign emperors. All of them showed off their sharpness, looking boundlessly elegant. Mu Zifeng looked around and revealed some helplessness in his eyes. Originally, he thought that he might be able to see Xiao Chen appear at the last moment. But now, it seemed that the rumor about Xiao Chen's injury was indeed true. Looks like that kid is really crippled. Mu Yunzhu had not moved at all. His sharp eyes flashed like lightning as he stared at the surroundings. As long as Xiao Chen revealed a trace of his aura, he would be able to detect it in an instant. For this day, he had waited for a very, very long time. For more than 5 years, every day felt like a year. Every day was doubled in bitter cultivation. Mu Yunzhu had been waiting for the day when he could openly trample on Xiao Chen. After the events of 5 years ago in the ice-fire wasteland spread, Mu Yunzhu, Bai Yunfei, and the others became the laughingstock of the faux god world's disciples. Many half-step sovereign emperors, princes of various empires, and noble clan scions had been fooled by a heavenly alliance disciple. Paradise was an excellent opportunity for Mu Yunzhu to prove himself. However, Xiaochen did not show up. Damn it! I finally managed to condense divine energy after much difficulty, and you actually lost just like that. Mu Yunzhu cursed in his heart, unable to wait for Xiaochen. Then, his figure flashed, and a profound light filled the air as he flew towards the entrance. Like Mu Yunzhu, Bai Yunfei, Xiao Hozun, and Feng Xiaobai waited for a long time before flying towards the black whirlpool in disappointment. Fiend Cloud Hall, a person lay on the white jade bed where fiendish saber Shimu cultivated. This person's body was covered in bandages, including his face. Only a pair of tightly shut eyes could be seen. A faint medicinal fragrance spread throughout the entire room. That was the fragrance of the Primal Chaos Heaven Replenishing Ointment on the bandages. The Primal Chaos Heaven Replenishing Ointment could allow a faux god to reconstruct the physical body. Yet, it was used on a sovereign personage. If others saw this, they would definitely exclaim how unfortunate it was for wasting a heavenly treasure. Lu Benwei sat cross-legged outside the white jade bed, cultivating with his eyes closed. Whoosh! Suddenly, without any warning, Xiaochen opened his eyes. Xiaochen's eyes appeared listless as he stared at the ceiling. He looked like he had just woken up from a dream or like he had yet to savor the gentleness of the dream. Xiaochen did not move for a long time. He had a dream. He dreamed of returning to Qingyun Peak. The beautiful days of the past appeared in his dream. Dreams were wondrous, like the most fragrant wine, intoxicating and infatuating. In the mirage of the wine cup light, Xiaochen only hoped that he would never wake up, that the night would never end, that dawn would never come. He continued drinking like that. However, Xiaochen was awake in the dream. The hand that held the wine cup trembled forever. Because of pain. Even the most beautiful dream in the world could not make Xiaochen smile happily or ease the pain in his heart. After Xiaochen drank enough wine and saw enough of his memories, he opened his eyes and returned to reality. What is the point of all my martial arts? Xiaochen, who had been watching coldly in the dream, already had an answer. All my martial arts were hope, persistence, and struggle. Without these martial arts, I would not even have met Lu Ryue. My heart would have turned to ashes. Compared to heartache and heartbreak, a heart of ashes was more despairing. At least I still have a dream, a goal to strive for and pursue. Many people in this world do not even have a goal. For example, fiendish saber Shimu. He was a peak faux god with all his martial arts. However, his heart died long ago. Sparks slowly lit up in Xiaochen's listless eyes. A strong fighting spirit surged in his heart. Then, he clenched his right fist tightly, and a determined light appeared in his eyes. Whoosh! Lu Benwei, who was at the side, seemed to sense this gaze, so he suddenly opened his eyes. Indeed, it was Xiaochen. He had already woken up. Xiaochen looked at the bandages on his hands and body. After some thought, he wanted to tear them off. You can't do that. You have not completely absorbed this Primal Chaos Heaven Replenishing Ointment yet. You cannot tear them off now. The internal injuries this time are even more damaging to your body than berserking qi deviation. If not for Master giving you the Primal Chaos Heaven Replenishing Ointment, you would not have recovered so quickly. Lu Benwei's voice rang out, stopping Xiaochen. The Primal Chaos Heaven Replenishing Ointment? No wonder. No wonder Xiaochen felt like he was in a medicinal spring. His entire body felt warm and indescribably comfortable. Where is Senior? Xiaochen felt warmth in his heart. He wanted to find Shimu and thank him. Lu Benwei smiled and said, given Master's temper, I don't think he will see you. It's good that you woke up. Back then, I nearly thought that you would never wake up again. When Xiaochen heard that, he felt somewhat guilty. He said apologetically, "Many thanks, Big Brother Lu, for saving my life." Although Shimu had saved Xiao Chen, he would have died in his state at that time without Lu Benwei. "How many days was I asleep?" Xiao Chen asked. "Exactly 3 days. Perhaps this was the will of the heavens." Perhaps Xiao Chen never thought of giving up from the start to the end. He had always remembered Paradise's trial in the depths of his heart. If Xiao Chen did not wake up on this day, he would truly give up. He would never wake up again, remaining a coward his entire life. If Xiao Chen did not even believe in his martial arts, what was the point of living? Xiao Chen believed that one day, he would return to the Divine Dragon Empire and take back everything he lost. He was filled with pride and would never give up. "Can I make it in time?" Xiao Chen did not say when, but Lu Benwei naturally understood what Xiao Chen meant. After some thought, he said, "Logically speaking, there is no hope. The passageway that the Holy Lord opened is slowly shrinking. However, I have a way. Come with me." Xiao Chen got off the bed and wanted to put on the alloy battle armor. However, he helplessly discovered that the bandages mixed with the primal chaos heaven replenishing ointment covered him in layers. There was no way to put on alloy gloves. He could not even use his storage ring. Once he used it, it would tear the bandages, causing the bandages to tear and the medicinal effects to leak out. Left without a choice, Xiao Chen picked up the white bedsheet and casually wrapped it around himself like a cloak. Strong winds howled at the summit of the mountain where the clouds were like a sea. Strong winds blew as Xiao Chen wrapped himself in bandages. The bedsheet swayed in the strong wind, looking rather strange. However, Lu Benwei did not care. He pointed into the distance of the cloud sea and said, "Do you see that? That is the entrance to the Paradise True Body." Xiao Chen looked over and saw a frightening black hole in the distance. It was like a black dot appearing at the limits of his vision. That black hole was shrinking bit by bit. With his speed, he would not be able to reach it before it ended. Who is the fastest in the Great Thousand Realms? The Great Rock. That's right. Have you heard of the saying, "The Great Rock soars with the wind one day, soaring for 45,000 kilometers"? Where does this wind come from? I once traveled outside and obtained an ancient inheritance called Great Gale Force. Only then did I realize that without wind, the Great Rock cannot fly. I have never tested this palm technique before. There are many space-time tears at the summit of this mountain range. I cannot guarantee that you can pass through safely. Do you dare to receive this palm strike of mine? Lu Benwei looked at Xiao Chen, secretly storing up power. He knew the answer in Xiao Chen's heart and was just waiting for him to speak. "Do you think that I will give up?" "Ha ha ha. In that case, I will give you the power of the Great Rock to help you ride the wind." Lu Benwei reared his head back and laughed, his laughter shaking the sky. A strong wind howled like a horrifying wave, and a boundless aura gathered behind him. This wind seemed like it would flip over the sky and ground. Big wind. Force. An even more boundless howl resounded in the vast world, accompanied by an ancient and shocking roar. Lu Benwei's palm strike landed on Xiao Chen's body. Boom! Xiao Chen instantly entered the cloud sea. The vast cloud sea was boundlessly vast. Xiao Chen was like a drop of rain entering it, not causing any ripples at all. However, suddenly, the world shook. Even the holy domain's divine capital started shaking. The many foe gods could not help looking over. Their expressions changed. They saw the sky turn pitch black, and a strong aura charged at the trial tower. A great rock. This startled several foe gods. When they looked over, they thought that a great rock really appeared in the foe god world. Then, a figure flew out of the vast cloud sea. This figure wore a white cloak and spread his arms, looking like a great rock covering the sky. He carried an overwhelming aura. In the blink of an eye, this figure crossed 5 million kilometers. Just as the black whirlpool was about to close, he turned into a beam of flowing light. He turned into a streak of light, carrying pride and stubbornness. Wrapped in a bedsheet, he rushed in, ignoring the gazes of the world. The great rock soared with the wind, soaring 45,000 kilometers. Chapter 2157. The great rock soared with the wind, flying 45,000 kilometers. Just as that black entrance was about to close, Xiao Chen's figure flashed in. What speed! It looked like a bedsheet just now. Did it enter paradise? It was not a bedsheet. Someone barged in while wearing a bedsheet. Did someone barge in? That should not be the case. If one's cultivation surpassed sovereign personage, one would not be able to barge in. It should be a sect disciple, but I do not know which sect. Did anyone see it clearly? That beam of light earlier carried the aura of a Kuan-Peng as it flew over. It was so fast that it shocked the foe gods. The foe gods reacted only after a while. If it were a sovereign emperor, they would not even have seen the beam of light. They would only have sensed a strong aura. Lu Benwei's great gale force was simply stunning, helping Xiao Chen greatly. Whoosh! The instant the black whirlpool turned into a black dot and vanished, a huge light screen appeared above the trial tower, showing the scene of paradise. What a strange person. Why is he wrapped in a bedsheet? Is he not wearing any clothes? Mu Zifeng found this somewhat strange, feeling confused. It was not just Mu Zifeng. The other foe gods did not know what was going on either. When they saw Xiao Chen's figure on the light screen, they all showed strange expressions. It was like this person had a strange fetish. They looked like they were looking at a weirdo. Ha! I wonder which sect's disciple is from. His entrance is rather scary. A foe god powerhouse from the profound heaven Holy Land said with a smile, his tone filled with mockery. The powerhouses of the various super factions all secretly asked around to see if this person was from their sect. After obtaining a positive answer, they heaved a sigh of relief. Lord Mu, this strange person should not be from our heavenly alliance. If he is, he would definitely be wearing the alloy battle armor, a heavenly alliance subordinate said after arriving beside Mu Zifeng. Mu Zifeng nodded slightly and heaved a sigh of relief. Although cultivators paid particular attention to being unrestrained and unrestrained, it was too much for someone to come out wrapped in a bedsheet. However, it was a little too much to come out wrapped in a bedsheet. It was easy for people to see it as a joke. At some point in time, Shimu appeared beside Lu Benwei at Fiend Cloud Hall. He frowned and said, "What a scandal. Can't you lend him some clothes?" Now that Lu Benwei thought about it, he felt embarrassed. He smiled bitterly and said, "I was in a rush, so I forgot." Shimu sighed, "This little fellow is too impatient. Let's see how he performs first." In paradise. The disciples of the various clans had arrived long ago. Be it false emperors or heaven-defying sovereign personages, they did not move rashly. They carefully sized up their surroundings. Regardless of how strong he was, it was better to be safe than sorry. He had to familiarize himself with the environment first. But just as they were sizing up their surroundings, a streak of light flew past. Xiao Chen, who had slowed down a lot but was still very fast, streaked over their heads. In an instant, the elites of the 5 super forces were dumbfounded. The person in front of them was wrapped in white gauze from head to toe, revealing only a pair of eyes. He wasn't wearing anything other than a bedsheet. It was hard to imagine who would dress up so strangely. Where did this lunatic come from? Bai Yunfei asked with a frown. He could not think of anyone who could match this person. Of course, he would not connect it to Xiao Chen. In Bai Yunfei's impression, Xiao Chen always wore white clothes or battle armor. His aura was completely different from the bedsheet-clad person before him. At the side, Xiahou Zun found it strange as well. After some thought, he said, "This fellow is somewhat strange. Later, go and test him out. See if we are wary of him." Yes. The other Bushin Palace disciples nodded. Right now, both Xiahou Zun and Bai Yunfei had advanced to False Emperor. They were the leaders of the Bushin Palace disciples. No one dared to disobey them. Bai Yunfei waved his hand and said, "Brother Xiaohou, who do you think it is?" Xiahou Zun entered deep thought. Then, he shook his head and said, "I did not expect the 5 super factions to not be able to think of a corresponding person. This is really strange. One did not fear a strong and undefeatable enemy. One only feared an unfathomable enemy who did not play by the rules." The people of the profound Heaven Holy Land, the Hidden Spirit Temple, the Universe Origin Sect, and the Heavenly Alliance all showed strange expressions as they looked at Xiao Chen in confusion. They all showed expressions of confusion, wondering if a super faction was purposely trying to mislead them. Boom! The speed was too fast. Xiao Chen could not control his body and landed on a mountain peak. Fortunately, Xiao Chen did his best to control the impact. Otherwise, the entire mountain peak would have crumbled. Xiao Chen waved his hand and scattered the dust. Then, he looked around and discovered that everyone was in a vast herb field. Paradise had been modified into a land of trials over the boundless passage of time, sealed in the trial tower's 81st floor. The first stage of this trial was to search for spirit herbs. Whoever found the most spirit herbs would be the winner. The strong would be able to obtain herb kings. One might even be able to find legendary divine herbs. Of course, that was extremely unlikely. No one harbored any hope. Being able to obtain a 10,000-year-old herb king was already pretty good. However, rumor said that one could not remain in this herb field for too long. This could be considered the first stage of the trial. After a certain amount of time, one had to leave quickly and head to the next stage. The baleful aura is very heavy. Under the layers of gauze, only Xiao Chen's eyes could be seen. However, he could still sense the strangeness of the surroundings. Baleful aura and death chi filled the turbid air. Corpses and bones littered the herb field. Back then, when the heavenly realm shattered, rumor had it that an intense battle had happened in paradise. After tens of thousands of years, the baleful aura did not scatter. This paradise had already turned into a land of danger. This was the reason why everyone did not act rashly while they were in the herb field. While the herb field looked desolate and peaceful, no one knew what dangers hid. No one dared to be careless. As Xiao Chen sized up the mountain peak, he saw a vast herb field with no end in sight. The sky was chaotic. There were 2 extreme energies mixed together, pulling on each other as they slowly circulated. One of the energies was filled with spirituality, like immortal qi, pure and without any impurities. In the past, paradise must have been filled with such pure immortal qi, which allowed it to nurture a vast and boundless herb field. The other energy was extremely turbid, filled with filth, baleful aura, death qi, baleful aura, and resentment. All sorts of terrifying auras formed a turbid demonic qi. The baleful aura and death chi in the air of this vast herb field all came from this. The 2 energies filled the sky, looking like ink entangling with each other, forming a strange sky. Don't care about that strange person. Quickly start moving. We do not have much time. After familiarizing themselves with the herb field's environment, the super disciples of the various factions could no longer hold back and started searching. The 10,000-year-old herb kings here all turned into spirits. Without some special means, it would be impossible to find them. Let's start as well. Mu Yunzhu withdrew his gaze from Xiao Chen. After some thought, he led the profound Heaven Holy Land disciples to search the herb field. Attack! Once you discover a 10,000-year-old herb king, immediately send out a signal. Do not let anyone out. The Universe Origin Sect's Chu Feng shouted coldly, appearing extremely tyrannical. Then, he got the Universe Origin Sect disciples to scatter. The boundless herb field was filled with fertile black soil and baleful aura. Aside from spirit herbs, there were also many flourishing weeds and trees. There were all sorts of strange things in the forest. It would not be easy to find spirit herbs here. However, the various super factions were clearly prepared. The Universe Origin Sect disciples all held clumps of flames in their hands. When they encountered spirit herbs, they would get excited. When they encountered weeds and other plants that turned into spirits, they would get frustrated. The Bushan Palace's people formed groups of 2 or 3. The leader controlled a spirit-devouring rat with an extremely strong sense of smell. Even the Heavenly Alliance members were prepared. No one came empty-handed. Only Xiao Chen, who was wrapped in bandages and a bedsheet, looked at the herb field helplessly. I have to think of a way. This is too disadvantageous for me. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Then, he tried to see if he could take out some secret treasures from the storage rings. In the end, he discovered that this was somewhat difficult. The bandages containing the Primal Chaos Heaven replenishing ointment would definitely tear. Xiao Chen had not recovered from his injuries yet. He did not want to leave behind any future problems, so he needed to absorb all of the Primal Chaos Heaven replenishing ointment's medicinal energy. I got it. All things rejoiced together. A bright light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He had absorbed a drop of fiend blood. Back then, he had been able to refine the ice-fire divine origin. He had relied on this drop of fiend blood to explore the entire ice-fire wastelands underground. Perhaps he could do the same now. Chapter 2158. Many spirit herbs hidden in the black soil gave off a dazzling spiritual light that others could not see. Xiao Chen could not open the bandage-covered storage rings. However, he could put some things in. Xiao Chen leaped down from the peak and formally entered the herb field in paradise. With one look, Xiao Chen knew that this black light contained extraordinary might and dense death qi. One of them looked at Xiao Chen, who was wrapped in bandages and bedsheets, not daring to underestimate him. The skeleton on the throne must have been a supreme god sovereign or an ancient demonic sovereign who died in the great war between righteous factions and demonic factions 100,000 years ago. Pooh! However, Firmament's Rage was a Dragon's Gate's secret technique executed by combining the 5-element divine lightning with the Thunder Great Tao and the flawless Tao domain. Whoosh! 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 Divine Firmament 9 variations, Traceless Lightning Shadow. A hoarse wail rang out. The sword formation collapsed, and the colossal Cyclops tree shook violently. Rumble. The surrounding 5,000 kilometers shook intensely. Even the world trembled. Come out, then. The true spirit herbs were hidden in the soil. Not only were they difficult to find, but they could also easily run into danger if they were not careful. Whoosh! Xiao Chen swept his gaze around, and his figure started to move. He cautiously looked in all directions. Xiao Chen grunted, and the rebound knocked him back. His palm left the ground as he stood up. I hope it works. The herb field in the Heaven Dragon Palace and the secret realm that the third palace master managed were filled with spirit herbs. That is, although Xiao Chen had been interrupted earlier, he had memorized the locations of the spirit herbs hidden in the depths of the black soil with a single glance. He left behind a faint purple mark as he rushed towards the Cyclops tree. Instantly, thousands of tree branches fell. Immediately, thousands of tree branches danced around like demons, wielding deadly sabers and swords, instantly launching thousands of attacks. When the boundless ice flame landed on the colossal Cyclops tree, it immediately started burning. A flickering candle flame burned in each of Xiao Chen's eyes. A candle dragon head appeared behind him, and it opened its eyes at the same time. Die! As a result, there were many rough trees and flowers growing in the herb field. At a glance, it was full of weeds. Their concealment technique was exceptionally ingenious. If not for the Cyclops tree's intense struggle earlier, allowing him to sense some unusual fluctuations, he would not have been able to discover these 3 people. Xiao Chen flew forward. The instant the 10,000 dragons picture appeared behind him, he punched the one-eyed tree with the supreme dragon fist. Firmament's Rage. The sharp light turned into a gust of wind and blew towards Xiao Chen's face. The bedsheets tied around Xiao Chen's body fluttered like a cloak. It was as though he was shuttling through a sword array. This sword array looked chaotic, but it actually contained some sort of Dao charm. This was a secret technique that the giant Cyclops tree had comprehended on its own. If anyone disdained it, they would be turned into a hornet's nest on the spot. As the spear thrust forward, the light that erupted out made the expressions of the Hound Lion Empire's three change slightly. They felt their auras and Dao domains instantly suppressed. The environment of the herb field before Xiao Chen was somewhat complicated. There was spiritual energy that was as pure as immortal qi as well as extremely filthy demonic qi. However, Xiao Chen did not get careless from the start. He only brought out his flawless Dao domain and moved like a phantom. Xiao Chen did not make any movements, but the bedsheets wrapped around him fluttered, looking as dazzling as a saber light. Instead, it was covered in baleful qi and death qi. Ordinary people would run far away from it and would not linger around it. Xiao Chen showed a grave expression as he slowly activated the fiend blood in his palm. Immediately, the bandage wrapped around his palm gave off a faint red light. A strong wind blew, instantly scattering the roaring aura of an ancient ferocious beast. A saber light flickered and clashed with the three-sword intense, easily blocking them. A trace of horror appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. There was actually a terrifying existence underground. However, that sharpness continued to thrust forward relentlessly. It was like it could pierce through their chests in the next moment. Boom! Seeing that the sword array could not deal any damage to Xiao Chen, the spiral eye on the trunk suddenly shot out a beam of black light. Xiao Chen casually untied the bedsheet and grabbed one of the branches. Then, he exerted some force and swept it. Bang! The mountain-like cyclopean tree turned into ashes with one punch from Xiao Chen. It turned into ice shards that drifted down like gray snow. Xiao Chen did not turn around. His voice came out through the bandage around his mouth, sounding somewhat hoarse and scary. Xiao Chen's eyes immediately lit up with joy. Indeed, it worked. After verifying that there was no one around, Xiao Chen bent over and touched the black soil with his bandaged hand. Furthermore, this was just an insignificant 10,000-year-old fiend king. Xiao Chen clenched his right hand and completely extinguished its ferocious nature. 500,000 kilometers below, Xiao Chen suddenly discovered piles of corpses. These corpses had existed for an unknown number of years. There were humans, demonic beasts, great desolate Aeon ferocious beasts, Asuras, flood dragon humans, Rakshasa demons, all he saw were corpses. There were even many spirit herbs that looked like weeds growing on the surface. However, the ones buried underground were thousand-year-old spirit herbs. Thousands of tree branches started dancing like treasured sabers being unsheathed, showing their sharpness. Tree branches were cut in half by the saber light and fell down like rain and snow. Xiao Chen moved unimpeded through the sword array of tree branches, approaching the cyclopean tree. It looked like a patch of wild grass. Whoosh! In the next moment, the scene before Xiao Chen changed. The black soil under his feet seemed transparent. Whoosh! 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 Candle dragon eyes. The spiral patterns on the trunk gave off a faint light, flickering like a ferocious beast opening its demonic eye. Whoosh! His Highness was right. You are somewhat strange. To think that you can use your own means to detect spirit herbs. The countless corpses were either prostrating on the ground or kneeling on one knee. None of them dared to get up before this skeleton throne. The Hound Lion Empire was one of the 8 empires controlled by the Bushin Palace. These 3 people should be Xiao Hozun's subordinates. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Xiao Chen arrived at a flat piece of land and stopped. In front of him was a towering black tree. The spiral patterns on the trunk looked like the eyes of a ferocious beast. The withered tree branches were like the claws of a ferocious beast, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Xiao Chen continued looking. 5 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers. Xiao Chen discovered more and more corpses. The joy in his eyes grew even more intense. It looks like I cannot stay in this herb field for long. After alarming these corpses, I have to leave quickly. I have to move quickly as well. Whoosh! 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 Xiao Chen tilted his body slightly and dodged the black light, not waiting for the cyclopean tree to do anything. Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. If this cyclopean tree was really strong, it would have attacked directly instead of endangering him first. 3 figures appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. They were the Hound Lion Empire's people. With one look, Xiao Chen could tell that this tree was not a spirit herb and could not produce spirit fruits. The 10,000-year-old herb king, Ice Cloud Nation, struggled desperately in Xiao Chen's hand, trying to break free. At this moment, the 3 finally realized how terrifying Xiao Chen was. Horror flashed in their hearts. They could no longer care about anything else, so they turned around and fled. Run! Boundless electric light tore through the sky, and the flawless Dao domain spread out. 3 extremely terrifying auras of ancient ferocious beasts answered Xiao Chen's question. Hidden in the overwhelming auras were 3 cold sword intents, as scary as hungry wolves. Whoosh! The cyclopean tree was already dead. However, Xiao Chen did not stop. With a flip of his hand, he threw a palm strike. A beam of spiritual light charged out of the ground, looking like it purposely charged into the towering hand. Before it could react, Xiao Chen grabbed it. This black light could be said to be extremely abrupt. As long as someone was slightly distracted by the sword formation, they would definitely be hit. Xiao Chen snorted coldly. Then, he pulled off the bedsheet and shook it gently. The bedsheet gathered and appeared in his hand like a spear. Then, he thrust it forward. Many 10,000-year-old herb kings appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. He even discovered some 100,000-year-old herb kings and 1,000,000-year-old herb kings. When Xiao Chen turned around, the bedsheet wrapped around Xiao Chen like a cloak again. This was somewhat different from an ordinary herb field. The more you put on an act, the more it proves your cowardice. Dang! 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 Then, it hung on a tree branch, weathered by the wind and rain, turning into a dried corpse. After stopping struggling, Xiao Chen looked at it for a while and gave up on consuming it immediately, tossing it into his storage ring. However, Xiao Chen knew that a 10,000-year-old herb king, the ice cloud fruit, grew under the tree. What was truly shocking was that the corpses buried deep underground were all prostrating themselves. You discovered my secret, yet you are still not running. In that case, none of you can leave. Given Xiao Chen's current state, the consequences would be unimaginable if he came in contact with it. Although the disciples of the various major factions had already started searching for spirit herbs, it was better to be safe than sorry. Before activating the fiend blood, Xiao Chen still had to be cautious. Now that Xiao Chen comprehended 3 Dao domains, once he executed it, even a sovereign emperor would find it hard to struggle free if he grabbed them. To ice-attributed cultivators, the ice cloud fruit was a great supplement. It was a 10,000-year-old herb king that could directly raise one's cultivation and Dao domain. It did not even need any special refinement to be consumed directly. Xiao Chen managed to obtain a 10,000-year-old herb king, which did not cause much of a commotion. He crawled all the way until a throne appeared in the depths of the ground. A skeleton wearing a featureless white mask sat on the throne. A group of people knelt respectfully to the skeleton's sides. A wondrous mental fluctuation immediately appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. That was the one-eyed tree threatening Xiao Chen to leave. Chapter 2159. When the 3 from the Hound Lion Empire saw that the situation was bad, Xiao Chen managed to suppress their auras with just one move. This was too horrifying. Although the 3 were not half-step sovereign emperors, they were at least heaven-defying sovereign personages. While the 3 might not be able to defeat Xiao Chen if they worked together, they would at least have no problem leaving. However, before Xiao Chen, they were no match for him. This immediately frightened the 3 out of their wits. They wanted to turn around and leave. However, since Xiao Chen chose to attack, how could he give the 3 a chance to leave? Stay behind. Xiao Chen shouted coldly as he soared into the air and swung the spear in his hand. A vast saber light encased the 3, not letting any of them go. Flawless Dao domain. This was the first time Shao Chen fought with someone since his saber Great Dao advanced to a Dao domain. After experiencing a tribulation, he finally managed to break through to the flawless Dao domain. The moment he attacked, he displayed strong might. Crack! Crack! This person's Dao domain actually cracked under the pressure of Shao Chen's flawless Dao domain. If the three continued fleeing, their Dao domains would crumble. They needed to fight. Otherwise, they would die for sure. Damn it! The three were forced to turn around and attack the pressing Shao Chen. Dang! 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 Shao Chen condensed the bedsheet. It looked long and slender, but in reality, he used it as a saber. The instant the three turned around, the flickering saber light arrived before them. The three could not react in time and could not deal with it calmly. They could only brandish their swords to block Shao Chen's attacks. In the blink of an eye, 100 moves had passed. Shao Chen pressed forward step by step. The three people from the Hound Lion Empire blocked Shao Chen at the same time. However, they appeared flustered, not having a chance to catch their breath. Rumble. Thunder rumbled endlessly in the sky. Snowflakes danced in the air. However, Shao Chen suppressed them with his flawless Dao domain. The three Dao domains immediately merged, working perfectly with each other, suppressing the three until they could not retaliate. These three each grasped a Dao domain. However, they could not merge them as perfectly as Shao Chen, unable to fend for themselves. Not only did they not bring out the advantage of having many people working together, but they also had to use 3 Dao domains each, limiting themselves. They could not even bring out 50% of their strength. In less than 100 moves, he was already covered in wounds, and it looked like he would be unable to hold on any longer. The three of them roared furiously. At this instant, their eyes shone with a golden light. They had activated their Great Desolate Aeon bloodline. Boom! The instant the Great Desolate Aeon bloodline erupted, the three of them finally recovered 10% of their momentum. After activating his Great Desolate Aeon bloodline, his aura should be soaring, and he should be launching a frenzied counterattack. However, the three of them didn't even think about it. As soon as they had a chance to catch their breath, they turned around and fled again. Outside the Tower of Trials, the boss of Bushin Palace felt extremely awkward when he saw this. The gazes of the other foe gods were filled with doubt and confusion, making him feel extremely embarrassed. You've been forced to activate your bloodline by this freak, yet you're still thinking of running? You're really courting death. As a foe god, he naturally could tell that if they activated their Great Desolate Aeon bloodline and fought to the death, one or two might be able to escape. However, if they chose to flee, only death awaited them. The moment the bloodline power vanished, they would no longer be able to retaliate and could only allow others to humiliate them. However, the foe god was wrong. Shao Chen did not wait for the three to finish activating their bloodline power, choosing to attack immediately. Shao Chen roared ferociously, and the golden divine seal in his soul pool activated. However, before the roar ended, the golden divine seal appeared. Before the shout ended, the three, who just turned around and soared into the air, vomited a mouthful of blood at the same time. They showed pained expressions as they knelt on the ground, dropping their weapons to the side. Perfect divine seal! Someone exclaimed softly. Given a foe god's eyesight, the might of the divine seal that Shao Chen erupted earlier could be seen as a perfect divine seal with one glance. Divine seals also differed in quality. Divine seals were split into 4 grades: flawed, ordinary, flawless, and perfect. Flawed meant that the soul and the Dao domain did not merge well, showing obvious flaws. Most cultivators who could enter the foe god world would not have any flaws in their divine seals. At the very least, they would be ordinary. However, it was somewhat difficult to condense a flawless divine seal. As for a perfect divine seal that surpassed flawless, they were like phoenix feathers and water chestnuts, extremely rare. Practically no one could merge 3 Dao domains like Shao Chen and still form a perfect divine seal. Who is this person? The eyes of the various super faction powerhouses lit up. They quickly got their subordinates to ask around. Earlier, they had been afraid that this strange person was from their faction. Now, they hoped that this person was from their faction. The other super factions all held some anticipation. Only the Bushin Palace powerhouses showed an unsightly expression. Seeing the three kneeling on the ground, tortured by the Tao, this strange person wrapped in a bedsheet was definitely not from their faction. Xiao Chen walked over step by step. He knew that these three were in the same situation as when he faced Mu Yunzhu back then. The other party's one sentence made it hard for Xiao Chen to resist, nearly resulting in defeat. Now, Xiao Chen had such ability as well. Furthermore, he was even stronger. I withdraw. The three said with much difficulty. Then, a strong force immediately appeared in front of Xiao Chen, blocking his advance. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He knew that this was the Trial Tower's protection. Everyone had such an opportunity in paradise. If one ran into a situation where they could not preserve their lives, they could withdraw. This way, Xiao Chen would have achieved his goal. As long as these three did not expose his secrets, it did not matter whether he killed them or not. My injuries are still somewhat obstructive, and my meridians have not fully recovered. Otherwise, I would not need to exchange 100 moves with these three people, who are not even half-step sovereign emperors. Xiao Chen muttered to himself. Then, he waved his right hand. Whoosh! The bedsheet that formed a spear scattered, and Xiao Chen draped it over his body again. Then, his figure flashed, vanishing from where he was. Back then, Xiao Chen had been in a rush, fearing that the gauze would not be able to cover him. After he came out, he discovered that he had worried too much. Even without the bedsheet, the gauze would be tight enough. There was no need to worry too much. However, it was not bad to use it as a weapon. If the gauze accidentally tore, he could use it to cover himself. Hence, Xiao Chen carried it with him. Could this person be Xiao Chen? Mu Zifeng muttered, a bright light flickering in his eyes as he entered deep thought. Xiao Chen also used the saber. His saber techniques resembled him somewhat. However, after thinking about it, Mu Zifeng felt that this was impossible. Xiao Chen had just been injured, and his survival was unknown. How could he erupt with such strength? The most important thing was that Mu Zifeng's impression of Xiao Chen was that he wore white and had a stern air. A sharpness hid on his face. He did not seem like someone who would appear in a bedsheet. Inside paradise, Xiao Chen followed the clues in his memory, continuously traveling through the boundless herb fields. When Xiao Chen stopped, he would definitely gain something. The ability that the Fiend Blood gave him was much more reliable than the Universe Origin Palace's flame or the Bushin Palace's spirit-devouring rats. Time passed. When Xiao Chen harvested his 10th 10,000-year-old Herb King, startled cries rang out outside the Trial Tower. Right now, Xiao Chen's harvest already equaled the harvest of an entire team of the other super factions. He did not know that this harvest was the result of Xiao Chen holding back on purpose. Xiao Chen knew that the foe gods outside could see the scene inside, so he did not dare to go overboard. The 10,000-year-old herb kings he obtained were ones that he could consume and refine himself, seeking quality over quantity. Ha! Saber Demon Wu Meng. With your saber techniques, you are not even fit to carry my shoes. Xiao Chen, who was traveling, suddenly heard a familiar voice. He quickly withdrew and retreated to a large tree. He slowly extended his spiritual sense and saw the Heavenly Alliance's saber demon clutching his chest 50 kilometers away, vomiting some blood. Someone besides saber demon Wu Meng supported him, showing a furious expression. The saber intent in the surroundings had yet to scatter, still buzzing. Clearly, there had been an intense battle here earlier. Zhang Yushan looked coldly at Wu Meng and said, "If not for your tortoise shell, I would have defeated you in 10 moves. To think that trash like you is not embarrassed to be called Saber Demon. Damn it. If not for your sneak attack, how could Big Brother Wu lose to you?" A Heavenly Alliance disciple at the side said angrily, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction. Wu Meng showed a calm expression as he waved his hand and said, "There's no need to say anything more. He is fiendish Saber Shimu's disciple. Even in a normal fight, I would not be a match for him. If you want this Herb King, take it. Let's go." Zhang Yushan reached out and received the 10,000-year-old Herb King that Wu Meng proffered. He showed a disdainful expression, not saying anything. Whoosh! Whoosh! The figures of Zhang Yushan's two junior brothers flashed, blocking Wu Meng and Zhang Yushan's path. Wu Meng said sullenly, "What do you want? I already gave you the Herb King that I subdued after much difficulty. What else do you want? How can things be that easy? If the two of you want to continue seeking fortuitous encounters in paradise, each of you will have to hand over 10,000 faux god coins." What? Wu Meng raged, the hand that held his saber trembling. Normally, given his temper, he would have attacked long ago. However, now, he really hated them.